Glad you could join us for this edition of Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
A COVID-19 mega testing site opens near Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. The site on Sullivan Road in College Park is capable of testing 5,000 people per day, and results will be turned around within 48 to 72 hours. The testing is free. Georgians from any county can get tested whether or not they're showing symptoms. These tests are conducted by nasal swab and are self-administered. The site is open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. through August 26th. To register and make an appointment, go to doineedacovid19test.com. A report published by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association says 97,000 kids tested positive within the last 2 weeks of July. The age range varied by state and comes as some children are returning to the classroom. At least 86 children have died since May. Recently, a 7-year-old boy with no pre-existing conditions became the youngest victim in the state of Georgia. Some Georgia schools that kicked off in-person learning now making changes as students and staffers test positive for COVID-19. Paulding, Cherokee, and Bartow County school districts announcing either temporary online learning or quarantine. Emory University infectious disease specialist and former public school teacher Dr. Mary Beth Sexton says right now, the way it stands in a lot of coronavirus hotspots, it would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to open school in a normal way that would also be safe.
For older kids and teenagers, it really does appear that they can be just as contagious and just as likely to transmit. And there have been some good examples of that, including the summer camp that was right here in Georgia, where about 3/4 of the kids and the staff all tested positive after working, playing, living in close quarters.
Dr. Sexton says before kids even arrive at school, bus riders should be wearing masks, and each child should have his or her own seat, which means staggered start times and staggered days. She says plexiglass between kids should be considered for lunchtime because disease spreads the moment they take their masks off for eating and drinking. She acknowledges that all may be challenging and expensive, but will make kids safer in schools. Atlanta City Council member Michael Julian Bond joins with rap artist Waka Flocka, State Representative Abel Mabel Thomas, Atlanta People Action Center, Reverend Larry Hill, and Northwest Youth Power to hold an emergency community giveaway. The event, held at the Magnolia Park Apartments, provided diapers and hand sanitizer, among other vital items.
What's going on here today is the community supporting the community. And you got other communities from Chicago coming to support the community in Atlanta.
There's so much that is going on in our communities that doesn't really make the news, doesn't really get a lot of attention, but a lot of these families have been impacted. We want to give our support to them along with State Representative Abel Mabel Thomas to say we're supportive of your philanthropy and we appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Stay at Home Connect. Have a great night.
The Atlanta City Council is cracking down on street racing. At their August 3rd meeting, the council approved an ordinance that sets penalties for people who actively participate in street racing events and exhibitions in the city. If convicted, violators could face a minimum fine of $1,000, spend up to 6 months in jail, have their vehicle impounded, or any combination of the above. Street racing is forcing public streets in Atlanta to be shut down and causing private property damage. Law enforcement is also reporting an uptick in racing events in recent months due to the coronavirus pandemic leaving more streets open. A Peace Museum complex may soon be coming to Rodney Cook Senior Park. The Atlanta City Council voted to authorize a lease agreement with the National Monuments Foundation to include the foundation's development of the Peace Museum complex, including the Peace Column Museum, Georgia Nobel Peace Pantheon, and 18 monuments to Georgia peacemakers at no cost to the city. The council will also accept a donation of an artwork installation dedicated to Congressman John Lewis as part of the agreement. And last, but certainly not least, the council moves one step closer to making the Atlanta Citizen Review Board a charter-mandated board. Monday's vote was the second of 3 readings required for a charter amendment. Created in 2007, the Citizen Review Board was formed to provide citizen oversight of misconduct accusations against sworn members of the city's police and corrections departments. The legislation is aimed at further strengthening the board's role. For more recently approved legislation, please visit our website at citycouncil.atlantagA.gov. This has been your Atlanta City Council Legislative Minute.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will begin the meeting shortly.
Ms. Kempson, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm getting some text from some of the committee members saying they don't appear to be on the call. Is there an issue?
We are checking to make sure in the logistics chat. Let's see.
Dickens is on.
Okay.
Shepard is here.
Okay. I think everyone has gotten on now. I was in the queue and then got hung up on. So. All right. Well, let's make ready to stand by to get started. It is 1:33 on August the 12th. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Atlanta City Council's Finance and Executive Committee meeting. I'm Howard Shook. I'm Vice Chair, but today I will be sitting in for the Honorable Jennifer Ide, who has another commitment today. So we will bring the meeting to order. And Ms. Kempson, right, can you do a bed check?
Yes. Councilmember Jennifer N. Ide. Councilmember Howard Shook.
I'm still here.
Councilmember Natalie Mosby Archibald.
Not in bed. I am here.
Councilmember Andre Dickens.
Here.
Councilmember J.P. Mazakite.
Here.
Councilmember Joyce M. Shepard.
Present.
Councilmember Matt Westmoreland.
Here.
Mr. Vice Chair, there are a total of 6 attendees for today's meeting.
All right, that would be a quorum. So thank you. We'll get the meeting underway. And could you begin with our ceremonial reading of the remote meeting statement?
This Finance Executive Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and is in accordance with the Official Code of Georgia 5014-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Orders and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by the following conference bridge: 1-877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the Friday, August 7th, 2020 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, citycouncil.atlantaga.gov, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Finance Executive Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on Friday, August 7th via atlantacityga.iqm2.com. Public comment was accepted between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. on yesterday, Tuesday, August 11, 2020. Comments received that pertain to items not under the purview of this committee may be found under the Finance Executive Committee tab, listed under Standing Committees on the Council's website. All persons present on the remote Council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents were distributed to committee members beforehand, and thank you for your cooperation in advance.
No.
All right, excellent. In terms of the agenda, are we still walk-in free?
Yes, we are.
Then I will move approval of the agenda as printed.
Second, Westmoreland.
Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6-0, the agenda has been adopted as printed. I'm sure you've all pored over the minutes of the prior meeting. I will make a motion to approve them.
Westmoreland, second.
The vote is open.
All right, the minutes have been unanimously approved. Thank you. That takes us to public comment. I want to make a comment to begin public comment. We had a number of calls from people who were concerned about the pending tennis management contract, which is not before this committee. It's actually in Mr. Westmoreland's committee, Community Development, where I believe they held it. I know we all want to have the people who took the time to make those comments, have those comments posted and be publicly accessible, but because it would be improper to play them here because it's not on the agenda again, I would recommend that we send them to the public comment bulletin board or portal. And I would ask, well, first of all, let me ask this. Are there any objections from colleagues about taking that course? Okay. Hearing none, Ms. Kempson-Wright, could you please remind the public about how they may access those comments?
Yes. You may access the comments on the Atlanta City Council's webpage, citycouncil.atlantag.gov, by going to Standing Committees, the Finance Executive Committee tab, and there is another tab for public comments, which will be noted for the August 12th meeting.
All right, thank you. That leaves us with, I believe, 10 comments. So if we're ready, let's play those now, please.
Greetings to you, committee members and staff, and special greetings to you, citizens of Atlanta, who have tuned in to these proceedings. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. My comments relate to Agenda Item I-12, Ordinance 20-0-1519. That is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a license plate reading camera. I ask that you cause matters like this, license plate reading cameras that relate to public safety, be placed on the agendas of neighborhood planning units in our city, so residents and stakeholders of the various NPUs might be inspired to also take innovative approaches to the common peace and the common good. Be advised, however, that any attempt you might make to add anything to that tightly controlled NPUR agenda will be met with fierce resistance by that closely knit group, the NPUR 9, Anthony Robinson, Paulus Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Alfred White, Burnett L. Scott, Allison Hathaway, and the NPUR 9 Go Along to Get Along cohorts. That ends my comment. Thank you.
My name is Luna Diana, and I support 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. We want the Smart Policing Initiative grant to go towards reimagining policing. We want investment in our communities, and we believe Black Lives Matter.
Hi, my name is Caroline Olkers, and I'm calling to voice my support of 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. I think no-knock warrants are dangerous, and they set a dangerous precedent for our citizens, and that we need to review policing, and that the Smart Policing Initiative grant should go toward reimagining policing. I want us to invest in our communities. I believe that Black Lives Matter. I believe that our citizens should feel safe in their homes, and that we should be able to defend our homes accordingly. No-knock warrants are unethical. They're a violation of citizens' rights, and they are just straight out unsafe, and I encourage you to ban them. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Hi, I'm calling to support the 20R4178 bill to review a ban on no-knock warrants. I support Smart Policing Initiative grant to go toward reimagining policing. Atlanta can really be a city. It's been a lot of firsts. We can really make a difference here, and we can start out by showing that police can be reformed and done in a good way and in a smart way. And we want an investment in our communities, and we want this community to know that Black Lives Matter. So please support this bill, and please consider a ban on no-knock warrants. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Lisa.
Hi, I'm calling to support the 20R4178 bill to review a ban on no-knock warrants. I support Smart Policing, the Smart Policing Initiative grant to go toward reimagining policing. Atlanta can really be a city. It's been a lot of firsts. We can really make a difference here, and we can start out by showing that police can be reformed and done in a good way and in a smart way.
Hi, my name is Lisa McGee. I support 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. I want the Smart Policing Initiative grant to go toward reimagining policing. And I want investment in our communities because I believe that Black Lives Matter. Thank you so much.
Rebecca Washington, we support 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. We want the Smart Policing Initiative grant to go towards reimagining policing. We want investment in our communities. We believe Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diego Saldana from South Atlanta, and I'd like to voice my support for 20-R-4178 that reviews a ban on no-knock warrants. I want to support the Smart Policing Initiative to go towards reimagining police, and I want us to invest in our communities because I believe that Black Lives Matter.
My name is Luna Diana, and I support 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. We want the Smart Policing Initiative grant to go towards reimagining policing. We want investment in our communities, and we believe Black Lives Matter.
Hi, my name is Caroline Olkers, and I'm calling to voice my support of 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. I think no-knock warrants are dangerous, and they set a dangerous precedent for our citizens, and that we need to review policing, and that the Smart Policing Initiative grant should go toward reimagining policing. I want us to invest in our communities. I believe that Black Lives Matter. I believe that our citizens should feel safe in their homes, and that we should be able to defend our homes accordingly. No-knock warrants are unethical. They're a violation of citizens' rights, and they are just straight out unsafe, and I encourage you to ban them. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, and evidently that's our last call. I have a question. There was a caller who, right after she introduced herself as Stacy, the call broke up, at least on my end. Is that message retrievable, and were there others that we missed during what seemed to be a kind of a prolonged outage?
We did have an internal error with the messages, but our IT manager did ensure that all were played pertaining to items on the agenda and relative to the committee.
Okay, so the one that was terminated was unretrievable, is that correct?
He's saying if we give him 1 second, he will actually pull that one if we would like to play it.
Okay, well, I just don't want to skip anybody, and I wondered if the problem might have been in my end.
Okay, if you'll give us 1 second, we will pull that one and play it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Council President Moore. I just wanted you to know I was on the line.
I'd like to announce at this time that we've been joined by Atlanta City Council President Felicia Ann Moore. And I'm sorry for not recognizing you earlier.
That's all right. Thank you.
Well, listen, let's do this. In order not to hold up the meeting and we have a full agenda, we can, if it's okay with the committee, let's play the rest of the message that was lost, if it's retrievable, plus any others at the end of the meeting. All right? So that'll give you all time to figure that out. And so if that's acceptable to the committee, let's move on to Section G, presentations and status reports. And we have three. They are all quarterlies, the first of which is HR. Mr. Norman, are you ready?
Good afternoon, Council Member Shook and members of the Finance Executive Committee. I hope that everyone is safe and healthy as we continue to work our way through this pandemic period. So wanted to take an opportunity today as part of the quarterly report and walk you back through the guidelines and the progress that we have made as part of this COVID-19 period. And so we can start the presentation. We can go to page 3, and page 3 of the presentation will give you an overview of the topics slated for discussion. And so speaking to the COVID-19 pandemic response, we'll touch a little bit on the prevalence of citywide communications, speak about the telework deployment, public closure of city facilities, designation of mission-critical employees, current status for hazard pay and hazard pay compensatory time relative to those mission-critical employees, as well as our efforts for COVID-19 employee testing for our first responders and mission-critical staff, and then to just highlight a couple of things that have been implemented by the Department of Human Resources. I do want to note for you at the outset of the conversation, we normally do append as part of our quarterly report routine metrics. We are currently recalibrating that reporting system, so I will be providing a supplement that will give a breakout of those normal statistics. And I anticipate having those for you no later than the week of August 31st, but just wanted to point that out at the outset. And so we can go to slide 5. And so obviously as we continue to work through this response and we continue in this mission critical phase of service delivery during the pandemic, it's obviously been essentially important to make sure from a human resources perspective that we continue to provide up-to-date pandemic information to our workforce to ensure that we are providing appropriate guidance relative to workplace safety practices and precautions, and making sure that those guidance items are coordinated along with other state and local health departments, emergency management agencies, and guidance that continues to be updated through the Centers for Disease Control. We can go to slide 6. And so just wanted to point out to you that there are a couple of methods that we are routinely continue to push out citywide communications to make sure that all employees and members of the workforce have access to relevant and timely data. We routinely push out through the city's email system, citywide emails, inclusive of frequently asked questions, so that we can provide pertinent data and guidelines to employees. As I'm sure you're aware, the Department of Information Management has stood back up the city's intranet, and as part of standing up the intranet, not only is the information that is sent out citywide through the email system, but there are also additional items that are loaded for all employees to be able to have direct access to through the city intranet. And that information relative to DHR can be found in the Human Resources section as well as the front page of the intranet. Lastly, to ensure that all of our frontline employees have an ability to have access to that same information without having to go through an electronic medium, we also do work with the operating departments to ensure that they make physical copies of that information and that data available directly to employees at the reporting facilities for their duty assignment. We can go to slide 7. And so for the current deployment of employees at the city continues to go forward with a telework deployment for all non-essential and non-mission critical employees. Those designations have been made at the operating department level, and will continue during the full public closure period. As you're aware, for those mission critical functions in providing service delivery, those individuals have been designated in a mission critical designation, and those individuals continue to physically report to work and perform their duties on a daily basis. We can go to slide 8. Public closure of city facilities. Obviously, to minimize the risk to the general public as well as our workforce, the public facilities, all city facilities, including City Hall and Municipal Court, remain closed to the general public. We have also asked that any non-mission critical employees who are teleworking, that they refrain from physically reporting to any city facilities, and to the extent that there are ad hoc duties or requirements that they are required to perform, that they get prior authorization from their department head, so we can make sure that we are monitoring at an appropriate level the risk level for individuals being exposed to COVID-19. And obviously, as we continue on, that remains our top priority to ensure that as the numbers continue to shift within the state of Georgia, that we can manage that relative to exposure, not only amongst the general public, but among our workforce as well. We can go to slide 9. And so I've previously kind of shared these guidelines relative to mission critical designations. And so those obviously represent the specialized staff who generally are our frontline employees. And those areas typically are represented. You'll see that's public safety, water, wastewater, and watershed protection operations, sanitation and transportation, aviation operations, permits and inspections, regulatory compliance-driven functions, as well as parks and recreation, welfare, and safety operations. Obviously, that is a generalized list. There are individuals, and we continuously do a review for eligibility of those folks having a requirement to be subjected to potential COVID-19 exposure on a non-ad hoc basis.
which generally means that these are folks who have daily reporting responsibilities to perform their core tasks. We can go to slide 10. Slide 10 represents the current program structure for hazard pay and hazard pay compensatory time for eligible mission critical employees. That designation is a monthly incentive of $500. There's also the accrual of compensatory time at the rate of 6 days per pay period. And that program was effective March 11, 2020, and is currently authorized through council approval through September 30th of 2020. And we can move to slide 11. Slide 11, COVID-19 employee testing. And so just wanted to touch on relative to the ability for our mission critical staff and our first responders primarily to have the ability to get COVID-19 testing. The city has established a direct testing program. We've done that in partnership with HealthStat, and that allows for walk-up services. We have been doing that during the month of August, where there are days that have been designated for respective departments, and so those departments are notified of their respective days for availability, and they have the ability to then allow their employees to do walk-up mobile testing, thereby expanding the opportunities for them to make a determination as to whether or not they are positive or negative in regards to COVID-19. Secondly, we continue to make sure that in coordination with the Georgia Department of Public Health, that same pool of employees has an opportunity, expanded opportunity to obtain, once again, free COVID-19 testing through the Fulton County Health Department, as well as identified local testing partners. And lastly, just to reiterate, that we have also worked with our medical health care providers under our medical plans, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield of Georgia, as well as Kaiser Permanente, to ensure that there is free testing available to employees' primary care physicians. We can go to slide 12. And so obviously as part of this pandemic, there continues to be a significant amount of stress, anxiety, and lots of emotional distress that's not only shouldered by the general public during these unknown times, but specifically to those folks in mission critical roles. And so to ensure that we have a full breadth of availability to assist employees with that, our employee assistance program did shift to a tele-mental health platform. We continue to distribute that availability for contact, not only through citywide communications, but through the internet. And so for those employees who do need those assistance, we do have the ability to perform that in a virtual, secure platform. So wanted to bring that to your attention. Secondly, we can go to slide 13. Just wanted to make note that as we continue through this telework deployment, the Department of Human Resources has refocused to ensure that there are appropriate virtual opportunities from a training environment. Just noted here, for example, as we continue to onboard mission critical employees and staff, there is still a need to ensure that individuals go through the appropriate new employee orientation, as well as successive developmental training offerings that are provided to existing staff. But once again, we have shifted to a virtual platform for some of those offerings, and we look to further expand the city's learning management systems capabilities during this first quarter to ensure we can continue to meet those needs. And if we go to slide 14, just wanted to note that pursuant to previous legislation that was passed by the council relative to the Hobbs Act, that policy in concert with the Department of Law was finalized, distributed citywide. And so just wanted to make you guys aware of that dissemination. And obviously that policy just really reinforces the federal provisions and the responsibility, the ethical responsibility for elected officials and employees within the city of Atlanta. And that completes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Norman. While I'm awaiting notification of other questions from colleagues, let me ask this, and you actually have answered some of my questions. You should have received from my office, let me know if you didn't, an inquiry requesting for you to break out, starting with February on through last month, the number of APD who have resigned. I think, boy, there's a lot of really wildly conflicting statements and numbers that are being bannered about the public, which is very destabilizing. Did you receive that email, and when can you put that information out to us?
Yes, Councilmember Shuck, I did receive your request relative to the status and demographics relative to resignations from the Atlanta Police Department. We are currently validating that information, so I do anticipate that we will be able to provide that to you shortly.
All right. Let me ask you this from a process perspective. If a foreign officer initiates the resignation process in whatever form that is, hard copy, electronic, both, how long does the process normally take from initiation to, completion?
So normally that's aligned, and it depends on the situation, but normally that is within a 2 to 3 week period, because in most of those scenarios, we'll get prior notice of the resignation, which means that there are a couple of scenarios where individuals just routinely, and this is applicable across the city, generally there is that 2 week period where folks still are working or stay on the payroll. And so normally there's about a two week lapse between the time that the city is placed on notice and those actual resignations are officially processed, so we can put those folks in a non-paid status or either identify them as being separated from the city, because there still may be individuals who may ride out their annual leave time and remain on the payroll, even though they are no longer active employees. But in general, that would be approximately a 2 week period.
All right. And it just occurred to me, I should have asked for you to also do this, so please add, if you can, the number of officers who have joined the force via the academy during that time, if you would. Are there any other members? I see someone is waiting to speak, and I don't know who, so go ahead.
Councilmember Westmoreland. Hey, Mr. Norman, question to follow up on something that came up during your last quarterly report. What is the current full-time FTE count for the city, or the most recent time that we've gone and checked to see how many folks work for the city full-time as of, July 1st or August 1st or today?
So yeah, that will be part of the information that we supplement. I do not think it will, of course, if we have field vacancies, obviously, since we reported as part of the budget presentations, but we will make sure that we have appropriate validation of that information. I don't think that it will take until the 31st, but I want to make sure that we have clear line of sight of all of those numbers, but I do anticipate that we'll be providing all of those metrics to you shortly.
Mr. Westmoreland, was that it?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Shepard, and then Mr. Dickens.
I'd just like to ask Mr. Shook what you just asked from our HR department. Could you also, for the police, I would like to have that report to come to the Public Safety Committee also, in terms of the number of police officers who have resigned and all of the above that you'd asked for. So I'm asking that we requested that also be reported to our Public Safety Committee also. Thank you.
Well, yes, thank you. And actually, my request is that that information go to all council members. All right, Mr. Dickens.
Yeah, I can. Most SEC meetings and presentations that we have related to HR, we often ask the same question about head count and FTE count and any part-time, and then we also ask about the sworn police force and fire. Am I missing something that we couldn't do that on a just a standard report? I mean, like those numbers should just be provided each time. Do you see any balance with that, Norm?
Oh no, there's no problem in doing that. As part of processing going through the approximately 1,600 transactions relative to the personnel paper and reconfiguring how we pull out those metrics, we wanted to make sure that we had the accurate numbers as we went through that configuration process. And so that's why I just noted at the beginning that while, we normally push those out, we would be providing you guys with a supplement that will break all of that information down for you.
Okay. And generally speaking, I mean, I know for me, I'm not as interested in the number being, 8,042 versus 8,021. It's more an order of magnitude kind of number, but then a 5% variance. So, I'll wait till the chair gets back and the vice chair, and we can talk it over. But it's more of a level of confidence of where we are. It particularly, and then as it relates to sworn and training and resignations, etc. I mean, a simple grid that's just available to us would be helpful, monthly even or quarterly. So, maybe I'll take this offline, but I just don't feel comfortable to ask this, and it's like a prompt that we have to ask it when we know that it's just something that the Finance Exec Committee and the rest of council, we want to know who's working and where what level of employee, where are we generally, and that's helpful to us, even if the number is in flux, as it always is, because people can resign while we're on this call. So I just wanted to kind of see your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely in agreement there. Just to let you know from a general perspective, because the city continues to focus on mission critical hiring during this period, there's not going to be a significant shift in that head count that was previously reported as part of the budget process. But as you're aware, there have been shifts within a couple of departments, and it's much easier, to provide you a snapshot. And so to the extent that, there, for example, was specific questions relative to the police department, I agree. We will be providing you a pretty quick snapshot in those specific areas that are identified. And going forward, as part of our reconfiguration, we'll have the ability to put those out in a pretty routine and consistent fashion that kind of meets, I think, all of the needs and the concerns that you addressed as part of your comments.
All right. One other question or segment of questions is around the mission critical piece. How long do you anticipate for us to have mission critical comp time and pay? Is it going to go past September?
So it is currently authorized through September 30th of 2020. And so no authorization has been provided at this point. Obviously, we'll have those discussions with the chief operating officer as well as the CFO to make sure that a final determination is made relative to that program moving beyond that authorized date. But those discussions are ongoing.
Okay, and then I might have missed this, but I know I asked this before, and I looked for it, and I might not have got it at the time that I was looking for it, and I stopped looking for it, which was the list of titles and people associated with mission critical time. Did you supply that already?
Yeah, you should have. But if not, I do have a spreadsheet. I will send it to you once I get off the line that has those positions that are designated within the general departments. As I said, they'll be give and take because, for example, there have been individuals in specific departments who have worked early on during the pandemic who no longer are in those mission critical capacities because they're now in a telework capacity. But I can give you the structural framework that definitely shows you those consistent members who are designated as mission critical.
Okay, so that'll be for our general departments as well as everything from aviation to sworn to everybody, right?
Yeah, that includes the entire city workforce, and so I can send that to you today because we already have that spreadsheet available. Okay,
I'll imagine copy Ms. Santana right on that way she can disperse it to council members as needed. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Shep, as well.
All right. No, thank you. Any other council members with questions or comments for Mr. Norman? Going once. Going twice. Mr. Norman, thank you. We look forward to receipt of your information.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Noble, if you're ready, the Auditor's Office quarterly report is up next, and on deck, Open Records Act compliance quarterly report. Ms. Noble, are you ready?
Yes, can you hear me?
I sure can. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Amanda Noble, City Auditor, and I have Deputy City Auditor Stephanie Jackson also on the line. If you turn to page 2, the first real slide, the infographic summarizes our activity for the fiscal year, so about 6 weeks. We've completed 1 audit report and assessment of internal controls for Renew and Peace Law spending. The audit committee will meet remotely a week from Friday, August 21st, to vote to release the report along with 2 others that we finished at the tail end of last fiscal year. Those are Live Nation lease agreements and airport security. We resumed following up on open recommendations this week, coordinating with the COO's office. We had paused follow-up in the initial months of closure of city facilities, but we're starting again remote work, all working remotely, and we're starting the fiscal year with 116 open recommendations made to 15 departments in 29 reports. I provided that spreadsheet along with the copy of the slides. We're currently working with AIM and the Department of Procurement to procure an electronic audit work paper system that has enhanced follow-up reporting capabilities. So hopefully soon we'll have a working dashboard that will give you access to up-to-date information about open and closed recommendations, and provide departments capability to review their recommendations and submit information to us in closer to real time. We have released 2 iPro reports so far this fiscal year on solicitations totaling an estimated value of $4.9 million. The reports identified 7 findings, and we have an additional 45 solicitations under review. I think 17 of those have been canceled. And then finally, 2 members of the City Auditor's Office prepared and presented trainings to outside groups this summer. I presented on iPro to the local chapter of the AGA, that's the Association of Government Accountants, and Nia Young, one of our supervisors, presented on how we implemented changes to the 2018 revision of government auditing standards to a group of state and local Midwestern auditors. And one of our new auditors also published an article in the local government auditors quarterly newsletter. And if HR is still on the line, we are diligently working on our performance evaluations for FY20. Next slide, please. These are the 9 audits in progress. So Compass franchise fees is in audit committee review and should be voted to be released August 21st. Hiring process is in management review. We're hoping to get that response this week, so we could also release it August 21st. Tree Trust Fund is in management review, and we expect the response at the end of the month, so hopefully release in September. Our contracted audit for the forensic audit services, we got the contract executed at the beginning of the month, and we've started work on that. Then we're in field work on audits of Department of Watershed Management, Office of Engineering Services, Contract Management, and Office of Contract Compliance. Just started an audit of APD licenses and permits, looking at the liquor license processing and enforcement. And then APD hiring. Our hiring audit, the scope excluded public safety because the processes are different. And just based on stakeholder concern about APD, we're doubling back to do the APD hiring and look at congruence between the hiring processes and strategies and the department's mission. And then we've also started an audit of controls over CARES Act spending and FEMA reimbursements. So these last 2 projects we added while we deferred the planned audit of scooter enforcement during the COVID emergency. We should be able to distribute the revised audit plan after the audit committee meets on the 21st. That's really all we have. Any questions?
I do, while awaiting comments from others. To what extent is the virus impeding your ability to do y'all's jobs?
So far, it hasn't. We've as I said, we've deferred the scooter audit. Things that would require us to be out on site, we haven't done. But mostly, we've been able to work remotely, and the external financial auditors are also able to work remotely because the supporting documents are online.
Okay, very well. I am not seeing people lined up to speak. Sound off if you have a question or comment for the auditor. All right, Ms. Noble, you're released on your own recognizance.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Our last presentation is the Open Records Act Compliance Quarterly Report. Would that be Ms. Denius? Are they muted, perhaps? Open Records Act Compliance Quarterly Report. Is there anyone on the line?
Mr. Chair, one moment. We're checking.
Thank you. Yellow.
She should be on. We
Who is she?
apologize.
Miss Denius?
Denius, yes. 1 second.
Has she been mutated?
We're trying to make sure she's not on the public bridge when she should be on the presentation bridge. We're just trying to confirm.
Okay.
A co-moderator has joined the conference.
We apologize. 1 moment.
Right. We can defer this to the end of the meeting if necessary.
Okay, that sounds good. We can move on to first reads if you'd like to. I think someone's phone needs to be muted. I hear radio.
All right. Please indicate your phones. Ms. Kempson, right. Please sound the first read.
20-1543 is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to establish a trust fund for the Department of Enterprise Asset Management to accept building rental revenues associated with office and warehouse space occupied by the Department of Watershed Management at 2 City Plaza pursuant to the Memorandum of Understanding for that occupied space, to establish that 50% of the revenue received from the Department of Watershed Management shall be deposited into the account numbers listed, to expend fees from the revenue received for the general upkeep and maintenance of 2 City Plaza on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management. Number 2 is 20-1544, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to pay outstanding invoices to Cortera Incorporated for utility ticket management services on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management in an amount not to exceed $20,096.79 to waive the competitive selection requirements contained in 21187. Article 10 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all invoices to be charged and paid from the account numbers listed. And item number 3 is 20-1545, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into special procurement agreement number listed pursuant to Section 21191 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances with DLT Solutions, LLC for Oracle Siebel Managed Cloud Services on demand hosting and support services necessary for the 311 call center project on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management, Department of Watershed Management, and Department of Public Works in the amount not to exceed $617,323.40 for 1 year retroactively effective February 15, 2020 to February 14, 2021, in accordance with Section 21163 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances with 0 renewal term options, all contracted work to be charged and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. And am I correct that Ms. Denius has joined us?
Yes, we've been confirmed that she is on.
Ms. Denius?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, sorry about that. There was a technological glitch of some sort.
No, we never have those. So go ahead with your report.
Okay. So, again, my name is Kristen Donius. I'm the City's Chief Transparency Officer, and I'm very happy to be with you, finally, to present my quarterly Open Records Act compliance essay. We can move to the second slide, which is the first real slide. During this pandemic emergency, the city is continuing to receive and respond to requests for public records. Primarily, that is occurring electronically. We are still receiving some requests via U.S. mail, which is a little bit more complicated because, as Interim Commissioner Norman mentioned earlier, there is limited access to the building for employees. So those physical requests are being received and responded to, but the time frame for those responses is a little bit longer because we have to work with the quarantine procedures and the limited number of people who are allowed into the building. Open records coordinators that are designated for each department are receiving and responding to requests that they receive in their dedicated email inboxes, and they're able to access online records and respond remotely. So we have not seen any difficulties doing that. Records that do exist only in hard copy at City Hall also may take a little longer to provide during this unusual set of circumstances because similarly with the request being received by U.S. mail, we have to arrange for an employee to actually enter the building in order to store and retrieve those records. But that is still happening. For anybody, any members of the public who are listening, or for council members who may receive a question about it, the best way to request records electronically is via email. The information on who to contact in each department is available on the city's website. So from the main city web page, along the top right of that page, there's an I Want To tab. And if you hover over that, a drop-down menu will appear, and you will see Request Open Records. Selecting that link will take you to the Transparency web page. You'll see a picture of me, which will let you know that you're in the right place. And there is a link in that page to a listing, an alphabetical listing of all of the contact individuals who request records from each city department, as well as an ability to send me a message directly if anyone needs assistance in determining where the request should be sent. And I will say that I am regularly receiving those emails and directing people to the appropriate custodian of records. And so that process needs to be working as expected and hoped for during this pandemic. Next slide, please. The next slide talks about our open records management software procurement project, which I am still very excited about. Just as a recap, the project was advertised to the public on April 20th. We initially expected to have responses in June. However, there were a number of questions that potential proponents submitted related to the project, and the process of answering those questions and making sure that we captured all of them has extended the response time, or the deadline for responses. And the final responses were actually received on Monday, August 10th at 2 p.m. My understanding is that there are several proponents that have responded. I don't have any additional information, of course, that will all be played out during the procurement process. We expect to begin evaluating the proposals on August 20th and are targeting December of this calendar year for the introduction of authorizing legislation for a contract with whoever ends up being recommended. We also are hoping to have a pilot implementation with a department yet to be determined in the beginning quarter, or April, March-ish of 2020. These are all very approximate timeframes that can be adjusted, up if things move quicker than expected. But we do anticipate a citywide go live by the end of June of 2021. And I'm very excited about that process. Next slide, please. Finally, I have been still doing the employee training that is required of me. I have not been able to do new employee orientation training. As you can imagine, there haven't been any in-person employee orientation. However, the HR department has been working diligently to resume those, as we all recognize how important those are. And so virtual new employee orientation is expected to begin next month, and I will be part of that to provide basic open records training for all of our new employees. I have provided virtual training for the Department of Aviation in June, and I did an in-person training for the Atlanta Police Department in July, properly socially distanced, of course. And finally, I am in the process of working to develop an online training module to cover annual training for all employees, similar to the modules that the ethics office puts out for all of us to take related to ethics training. And that is a work in progress. Last slide is just a prompt for any questions, and I'd be happy to answer any that anyone may have.
All right, I've got a couple of questions, and we've got some speakers lined up, maybe. Is there just a kind of a general inflow of requests, or are you detecting any trends, especially kind of since the virus?
So there's always a kind of a steady background noise level of requests. People are always going to need to get things like accident reports or incident reports or a copy of a water bill or, any, just kind of the background open records requests that people make. There was definitely a spike in open records requests related to the protests that the city experienced.
I'm sorry, related to what?
The protests.
Okay.
So that has somewhat subsided. Really, anytime there's a very closely followed story in the news that's related to the city, we see an uptick in open records requests related to that topic. But there has not been a huge influx of virus-related open records requests, except initially when everything slowed down related to what the city's protocols were and what was being recommended.
All right. What is the government in Georgia's responsibility towards providing, well, let's take Y or Z as examples. Y is when you say, we don't keep that information. And Z is when you say, oh, that information, we've already sent it to you, or it's on our website. But then the person comes back and says, that's unacceptable. Where does that leave such a government?
So if a custodian of public record places that record online, that is affirmatively making it public. So once we've done that, that record is public and can be accessed by the public, and we don't have any additional responsibility to make sure that there's further access, unless we want to. I mean, there are some people who don't have internet access. And of course, we try to accommodate people's needs in that regard. But if we don't have a record, we're not required to create it, nor are we obviously required to produce it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it probably didn't help you out much, but yes. All right, other questions or comments from colleagues? I am not seeing any indications as such. So, Ms. Dennis, I'm sorry you had problems breaking into our highly secretive meeting here, but thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you. And just like that, we're at our ordinances for second read, and I'm going to ask Ms. Kempson-Wright to sound any and all captions for which there is a proposed substitute. And as that is the case very often throughout the agenda, as I think it is with, do you have a substitute for 1511, Ms. Kempson-Wright?
Yes, we do have one for 1511, not for number 4, 1510, though.
All right, and the substitute's different, correct? So if so, could you please read the substitute, and then I'll entertain a motion to bring forward said substitute.
Okay. Do you want to start off with item number 4, 20-1510?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to authorize the carryover of up to 10 days of SS annual leave accumulation through and including June 30th, 2021, and to authorize the carryover of up to 20 days of SS annual leave accumulation through and including June 30th, 2021 for public safety, Department of Public Works, and Department of Watershed Management employees and for other purposes.
All right, and Mr. Norman, are you presenting?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as the committee is aware, you previously approved legislation carrying over annual leave, and those original dates would have been for June 30th of 2020 for the normal staff, and then for those other specified departments such as public safety, public works, and watershed, that would have expired December 31st of this year. Due to the pandemic, we are seeking to extend that time to the end of this fiscal year, recognizing that employees during this mission critical phase, as well as the telework deployment, have not had time to utilize the annual leave.
Okay, so the nature of the substitute then is it updates the account information, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, I'll make a motion to bring the substitute forward.
I apologize. There is not a substitute for item number 4. The substitute is for 1511, item number 5.
I'm sorry.
This one is correct as is.
Yep, that's my bad. No, my bad.
Yeah, this is just updating the dates for the carryover accrual.
Roger, questions or comments from Mr. Norman?
Move approval. Westmoreland.
Second, Shepherd.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's nothing else, let's ring it up, please.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. Substitutes before us. Questions or comments? Motion?
Councilmember, we're still on item number 4, 20-1510, and so the result of that vote was 6-0. This item is favorable.
I don't know. I'm obsessed with 1511.
I see.
Yeah. Excellent. So let's go to that now. And that is also a proposed substitute with a change in the caption, Ms. Santana.
Yes. The substitute caption reads, a substitute ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget by transferring an amount not to exceed $7,326,725.00 from the committed fund balance to fund permitting related services, and to amend the fiscal year 2021 capital finance fund budget to fund the zoning rewrite project in an amount not to exceed $3,000,000, and to amend 20R3761 by updating the funding account stream for the zoning rewrite project and for the purposes.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to bring the substitute forward.
Second, Westmoreland.
All right, let's open that vote and then we'll discuss.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. The substitute is before you.
Okay. I have a question. So I know this comes from the money we set aside. However, I'm interested in the zoning rewrite. How much has this cost? How much is it going to cost? And when do we get there?
Good afternoon. This is Kimberly Talon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We can provide you with historical cost information in regards to the beginning works of the zoning rewrite. As you know, a few years ago, there were efforts that began to effectuate what we call quick fixes to the zoning rewrite. So we can provide you with that cost. That work has been completed.
We are now moving into the full-on complete zoning overhaul rewrite project, which that is approved at $3 million. I'm sorry?
No, sorry to interrupt. So there were the so-called kind of quick fixes, right? And then are the consultants doing the balance of the rewrite different from the quick fix consultants?
I will confirm, but the intention is to make sure that these things are all brought to be consistent at the end of this work.
Which will be which geological age?
Right now, the project for the complete overhaul, we're looking at between 3 and 5 years.
Questions or comments?
Move approval on substitute.
I'll second it if Dickens. But
yeah, and I see someone. I'm sorry. Is that you, Mr. Dickens, who signed up? Go ahead.
Yes, I signed up. So I do recall that when we started the zoning rewrite, it said it would take 3 to 5 years, and we're 3 to 5 years later.
3 to 5 years ago.
3 to 5 years ago, we were told 3 to 5 years, and now we're saying it's 3 to 5 years from now. Are there anything that we should be aware of that has caused these delays, or are you not saying that these are delays?
So it's a mixed bag. There was a delay in our larger procurement. We are actually in the contract execution phase now, so we do anticipate final execution within the next month for that, so that we can actually begin the work. We did have, I think, a couple rounds on the procurement. We did delay it, so that is a big part of the delay there.
Could you repeat that? There's an in and out that's happening on your call. I'm not sure if it's just my phone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, and I heard you before, but it went in and out as you spoke near the end. I don't know, Mr. Schutz, did it go in and out on yours too?
Yeah, yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, so we did have a delay in our larger procurement for the overhaul. Mm-hmm. So right now we are currently in the contract execution phase for that the final procurement. We did have a successful RFP. That legislation came before you some months ago to award that contract, and we're currently in the execution phase of that. But it did take us a couple times to get to that point.
Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, this is just going on quite a lot longer than anticipated when we first started. The people that are hawking this, the citizens that have put in a whole lot of time, the zoning folks and all the community meetings, I'd have to go back to notes, but I would imagine they were thinking that 2021 there was a deliverable. If they hear that it's going to be 2024 or something like that, 2023, that's a hard pill to swallow. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Dickens, I think several of the original team members have died of old age since then. And I see other members are signed up to speak, and I'm pressing the button. Ms. Shepherd.
Well, I mean, Mr. Dickens really asked a good question. And even though we're talking about the finances of it, it warrants us going back to Commissioner King and the planning department to, number one, is give a report and a status and update of where we are with that. So I would like to ask that we do that not only in terms of its finance that we're looking at, but that is something that he needs to address with the council as a whole. I think it comes from the purview of maybe CDHS, I'm not sure, Mr. Westmoreland, or zoning, but it does warrant the question, Mr. Dickens. You have a good question. And I think we should get a report on that.
Well,
So
I've got a somewhat more acerbic thought, which is we probably need to think about establishing a regulation whereby if this is not available, if this is not moving forward at a certain speed by a certain time, we just withdraw and end all funding for it.
Well, I think we want to get it done. I mean, I think our zoning laws are solely outdated since the 80s, and so we need to get it done, but we need to talk about what is the problem.
Council wants to get it done. You're quite right. I don't know if it's a procurement issue. All right, here's what we're going to do with this. We're going to follow this up offline and have some serious conversation about this. I mean, we all want this done. Is there anyone from the administration on the line that wishes to comment? All right.
As for city planning, we'll definitely be sure to follow up.
This is Councilmember Matsakite.
Yep.
Make a motion that we approve on condition that we get a timetable prior to our next council meeting.
Broken out by decade?
Exactly.
Okay.
A timetable and a report, Mr. Massacate. I mean, a timetable, but also a whole status report of where we are.
Exactly. Thank you, Councilman Shepherd.
And I support that. We probably also need to have some just probably direct conversation about that. But I will second Mr. Matsakate's motion. Questions or comments about the motion to support on that condition? And if not, let's bring it up.
The vote is open.
All right, it's approved unanimously. Next item.
Next item is item number 6, 20-015-12. There is a substitute for this as well, and I will read the proposed substitute caption. It's a substitute ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to pay outstanding invoices to Property Medics of Georgia, LLC for sewage cleaning inside dwelling services on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management in accordance with Section 21187 of Article 10 Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances in an amount not to exceed $142,009.27. All invoices to be charged and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed and for the purposes.
All right, and the substitute updates the amount and adds additional invoices, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And this is for the church basement that was flooded with sewage, for which remediation was needed, and the company who had won the contract had gone out of business. Is that correct?
This is Darren Boyson from the Department of Watershed Management. That is correct.
Go ahead. All right, thank you. Questions or comments?
Move approval on substitute.
All right, Shook will second that. Questions or comments? If not, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, it's unanimous. Next is 20-015-13. 513.
This is, there's an amendment to this ordinance, and the amended caption would read, an amended ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into amendment number 6 to ratify FC 6120, citywide janitorial services with American Facility Services Incorporated for citywide janitorial services groups A, B, C, and D on a month-to-month basis, retroactively effective July 16, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, and to add additional funding on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, the Department of Watershed Management, the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Atlanta Police Department, and the Department of Human Resources, and to add the Department of Public Works Fleet Services as an authorized user in accordance with Section 21163 of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, in an amount not to exceed $1,496,161.99. Said funds to be encumbered in fiscal year 2021. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. And the amendment updates the amount from $148,000 to $174,000, and also includes the fund accounts for the Department of Public Works in Section 2.
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend by Westmoreland. Shook seconds. Questions or comments? Seeing none.
The vote is open.
All right.
The vote is closed. The amendment is before you.
Okay, it's been unanimously approved. I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Second, Westmoreland. Questions or comments? If not, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
The vote is
It's
closed.
unanimous. Thank you. It's approved as amended unanimously. Will be on the consent agenda. All right, next item, 1514. This is ordinance by Finance Exec correcting 20-1271 adopted by City Council May 4th, 2020, approved as per City Council Charter Section 2.403 on May 13, 2020, to correct the account numbers for the Department of Enterprise Assets Management Neighborhood Centers, Dunbar Recreation Center, Georgia Hill Recreation Center, and Burdine Recreation Center, and for other purposes. Questions or comments?
Approval.
Second.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Shepard, second by Westmoreland. Questions or comments? Seeing none, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Consent agenda. All right, next item is 1515. We do have a substitute, and I believe the caption's changed. Ms. Kempson, right? If I'm correct, could you please read the substituted caption?
Yes, sir. It's a substitute ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into amendment number 8 to extend FC 7148, citywide security guard services with Dynamic Security Incorporated on a month-to-month basis, retroactively effective July 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, in accordance with Section 21163 for an amount not to exceed $909,266.40 on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, the Department of Corrections, the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Atlanta Municipal Court, and the Department of Watershed Management. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed in for other purposes.
Okay, so the substitute corrects the information in Section 21163. Is there anyone here from DEAM?
Yes. Good afternoon, Council Chair and Councilman.
Hello?
How you doing? Can you hear
Excellent.
me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Yeah, so purposes is to correct the funding stream for these particular time for the section that we're trying to extend these services while the contracts are out for bid. And just wanted to get into the right code in effect based upon communication with DOP.
While I have you, I have a DEAM general question. Do you know, and if you don't know, could you get us the information as to how the virus has affected our rents for city-owned rental facilities? And by that, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to get you the specific on that. But the facilities, as you know, have been impacted because of no public access. But I have to get you the specific on that.
Yeah, but I'm not just talking about the rec centers. I'm talking about across the street and other facilities, other larger facilities that we rent out. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion on substitute regarding this item?
Move to bring forward the substitute.
Shook seconds. The vote is open. All right, the ayes have it. Substitute is before us. Questions, comments, motion?
Move approval on substitute.
Shook seconds. If there's something else, let's vote.
The vote is open.
All right. Consent agenda. Thank you. Next is 20-015-16, and I believe we have a change in the caption, Ms. Santana. If that's correct, could you please read it?
Yes, it is a substitute ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into Amendment Number 5 and to extend FC 5597 citywide elevator service with Dyson Club Elevator Corporation on a month-to-month basis for up to 12 months, retroactively effective April 8, 2020 through April 7, 2021, in accordance with Section 21163 on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, the Department of Corrections, the Department of Aviation, the Department of Public Works, the Atlanta Police Department, the Department of Watershed Management, and the Department of Parks and Recreation in an amount not to exceed $568,020.40, all contracted work to be charged and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
And the substitute removes correct code references and replaces with the correct section in 21163 and clarifies the month-to-month verbiage, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why has this kind of lagged and fallen behind?
Well, this is simply so these 3 or 4 that we're looking at now as relates to the extension. We have been working with DOP actually for quite some time in some of the verbiage, but also there's been specific issues that we've been requesting back from from some of the vendors, and it's taken a little time, but we actually have been working on all of these pieces. So most of these documents are actually out or in DOP ready to go out for advertising so that we can kind of get back into alignment with where we should be.
Mm-hmm. Questions, comments?
Move approval.
All right, motion to approve by Westmoreland. Let me say this, as someone who's been stuck on the mayor's elevator twice, it's quality alone time, and I was able to successfully negotiate my release both times, for which I'm grateful, and so I'm going to second Mr. Westmoreland. Questions or comments? If not, let's vote.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. It's been approved. Ms. Kempson, right? What did I do wrong? What do we need to go back to?
No, my apologies. We need to go back to item number 6, 20-15-12. We did make the motion to bring the substitute forward, and then watershed management answer your questions, and we just need to take the final vote for the recommendation from the committee.
Move approval.
Really? Okay. Yeah, sure, seconds. Questions or comments? Okay, this is the sewage inside the church. Okay.
The vote is open.
All right, and it's still approved. That takes us to, is it 1513? That would be, we have an amendment, and that changes the caption. Does it not, Ms. Singh-Panaway? If so, please read the amended caption.
Yes, sir, and we've now moved on to 20, let me sure. Now I'm thrown off.
All right, you're right. No,
We just did 15,
elevator.
16.
We're on 15-17.
Correct.
And there is no amendment to this one or substitute.
My problem is I'm not ADD enough to deal with all these screens. All right. Please read the caption of the next paper.
Yes, the next one is item number 11, 20-15-17. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, David. Council member, I apologize. I guess I interrupted you too quickly for item number 10. When we went back to item number 6, we need to take the final action for item number 10, which is 20-15-16, the elevator services. So you did bring the substitute forward, and we just need a motion to approve on substitute.
Move approval on substitute.
Second.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. Motion carries.
Okay, now we're on item number 11. There is not a substitute or an amendment for this one, but I can go ahead and read the caption. It's 20-15-17. An ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into amendment number 7 to correct ordinance 20-1238 adopted by the Atlanta City Council on April 20th, 2020 and approved by the City Charter 2403 on April 29, 2020, to correct the time from 7 months effective December 19, 2019, to June 30th, 2020, to 6 months effective December 19, 2019, to June 30th, 2020, and include the language that increases the billable rate from $10.84 to $13.83. And the now therefore be it ordained section of Ordinance 20-1238 on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, the Department of Corrections, the Department of Parks and Recreation, and the Department of Watershed Management for FC 7148, citywide security guard services with Dynamic Security Incorporated for security guard services in an amount not to exceed $1,491,804.00 in accordance with Section 21163C of Article 10 Procurement and Real Estate Code. All contractor work to be charged and paid from fund numbers solicited and for other purposes.
And who is presenting?
Just again, Chris Davis from DEAM.
Yep. Hey, Mr. Davis, go ahead.
How you doing? So the purpose of this is to adjust the billable rate. Some of this kind of started, if you remember, early on in the year, where we were having conversation about the $10 per hour and things along that line. So in the process of getting ready to renew and go back out for review with these contracts, the billable rate for the vendors actually had already increased. And so when we had moved forward with the original legislation, we did not include what the increase would be. And so that's what the purpose of this is to do.
All right. Questions or comments from Mr. Davis?
Move approval.
Yeah, this is Archie Bong. I had a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Whatever. With the $10 or the $13.83, I'm trying to remember if we have a living wage requirement for vendors of the city. I know we do for ourselves, but no?
No.
You don't know, or I'm wrong, we don't have one?
No, I'm not. I've asked this question, and we don't have any.
All right, thanks.
He's right. You know.
Well, I know we talked about it. I guess we never did more than talk about it. But.
Yeah, we did talk about it, but yeah.
Well, and we talked about it, but then we were told that it was not
like out of
in concert with state law for us to be able to do that.
There you. Thank you.
Mr. Dickens.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I put forth legislation, but it got derailed because of that. So right now it is somewhere deep in the hell file.
So we need to have on our legislative agenda, Mr. Chair, if I may interrupt, to present this to the state to correct that, or to bring this forward as an issue for a city our size, or however our legislative folks would articulate that.
Well, no, I'm comfortable with that, but let me ask this. Were we stymied because it pertained just to the airport? Is there something special about the airport, or is the prescription more widespread?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Council President Moore, just on history of this, this was prior to even what Mr. Dickens had introduced. There was talk about a living wage for at that time it was a living wage. It was about $10 an hour, and it was citywide as well as with our contracts. That's when the state preempted us and did state legislation to keep us from being able to do it. So it is state law that keeps us from doing it, and they did it in response to our attempting to do that. And that probably was back in the Franklin administration.
All right, so that's how it would have to be styled. In other words, just so that I'm clear, this extends beyond just merely the airport.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's informational, if not uplifting.
Well, Mr. Chair, could I ask Ms. Simpson-White to capture this and talk about it when we're getting ready to do our legislative practice?
Absolutely. Ms. Kempson-Wright, did you get that?
Yes, I've made note of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I interrupted someone that made the motion had not been seconded when I interrupted. I'm not sure.
All right, I understand we have some additional backup here, can provide more kind of historical and legal data as needed. Ms. Amber Robson and Ms. Ian Hickson are here. Are there any questions for them? I do. For whichever of you wants to jump in, please give us a little more kind of context and definition of what we were told not to do.
Good afternoon. This is Amber Robinson from the City of Atlanta Department of Law. Council President Moore is absolutely correct in her recitation of the law in regards to this. It was during, I believe, even the first Franklin term of administration where the city attempted to state that there would be a living wage set forth for private entities operating within the city of Atlanta. And as a result of that, there was action by the state, statutory action by the state in order to set forth that the city of Atlanta would not be able, or any cities or local governments within the state of Georgia would be permitted to set a different wage other than what is the state minimum wage.
All right. Questions or comments?
What is the state minimum wage?
The state minimum wage, I believe, and I'm looking this up right now, but I believe it's like $7.25 or $7.50.
Are you sure? Because that's the national. On the state level, it may be lower, I've been told. So I just want to get clear.
No, we're not permitted to be lower than the national. The national is the floor, for the entire nation, with the exception of certain persons who work in tip industries, such as, people that work in restaurants for tips. They have a differing wage, which is lower, but the general minimum wage is the same as the lowest level is what the national minimum wage is, and I am checking on what that minimum wage is.
Thank you.
Right,
Okay.
but that's not Atlanta specific.
Employers subject to the Fair Labor Standards Act in the state of Georgia must pay $7.25, which is the federal minimum wage. But what you are saying, Councilmember Archibong, is if persons are not subject to Fair Labor Standards Act, which are most employers, it's a rarity for an employer to not be subject to the Fair Labor Standards Act. They are permitted to technically pay less than that $5.15 an hour, but that's almost nobody. So it's really, for all intents and purposes, $7.25. You get that dichotomy because the last time the state actually moved to adopt a minimum wage, it was still $5.15. But when the feds issued their new minimum, quote-unquote new, minimum wage, which I believe was in the George W. Bush administration, it moved it up to $7.25. So for intents and purposes, it's $7.25.
Ms. Archibald.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was Ms. Shepard who raised that point, Ms. Robinson. But here's my concern. When we look at, and it occurs to me that if we have a contract with some company and then they're going to hire security guards, those guards aren't going to make the $13.83 or whatever it is. They're going to make some percentage of that. So it's just disconcerting to know that people working at one of our assets and not earning a living wage. So I don't know what we can do about it. It's weight preference for companies that would, in fact, hire more, or how we have a workaround that attains or allows us to obtain the objective of having folks be able to care for themselves when they're working for something involved or something associated with it. That's a comment.
Okay, $5 and what?
$5.15.
Yeah.
Is the last minimum wage that was set by the state of Georgia, but like I said, so the Fair Labor Standards Act is what sets forth that if you work over 40 hours, you have to get overtime and those types of labor laws about wage and hours and things like that. I'm not going to say there's no such thing as an employer that's not subject to Fair Labor Standards Act, but it would be a rarity for an employer to not be subject to that federal law concerning wages and hours. So whilst on the books it's $5.15 for the state of Georgia, for all intents and purposes, it matches the federal minimum wage, $7.25.
All right, Ms. Archibong, if you are indeed back in the queue, you have the floor.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that, and I do hear the distinction that you're making. So if we are, this hourly rate that's in this contract of 13, whatever it is, what is that? Is that for each hour that is spent providing security service? And we don't get into how much they pay the people that are actually engaged in providing the guard or security service?
Yeah, that would be my understanding is that and our thought process always, so if the billable rate goes up, then what the employee actually receives should go up. But you're right, right now the way that it's been explained to me is that we don't, in this contract, we don't establish what that rate would be.
Well, I don't think we can fix everything today, but I think the conversation and the concerns around a living wage and making sure that we are allowing for that to be what happens when folks are working on behalf of the city, even in an independent contractor or consulting capacity, that we are in fact doing our best to ensure that. And that's, I don't know, from the law department's perspective, if that's getting too close to the line with the state law, or if there's a workaround where we can be in compliance with the law, yet encourage those folks who want to do business with the city to do better by way of how they compensate their employees. Obviously, cost back to the city for making that happen, but it would be a win-win. So to the law department, is there anything that runs afoul of the law to have that sort of priority set in how we award contracts or even put out to bid opportunities to work with the city?
Well, we certainly have more power through our power of contracting than we do from our governing power in order to, our police powers, in order to force persons within the city of Atlanta to do certain things, to include businesses regarding the wages they pay. So whether or not we are able to, pursuant to our powers to contract, require those things, higher wages in this particular case would have to be examined on a case-by-case and possibly sector-by-sector basis. There could be other regulations, such as federal regulations or other more specific state laws that govern the particular industry. So I'm reluctant to make a blanket statement across all industries or professions, though it's certainly something, because it wouldn't involve the use of the police power, that could be examined, but I cannot say without having the specific instance in front of me whether or not specifically we could in a specific instance.
So would this be, and I understand you are hesitant to give a blanket opinion here, but would this be something that will percolate up through the procurement office, or how do we start this conversation to see if we can do differently and better? I'm asking it generally, and I'm asking the work that needs to be done to get an answer. Does that start in procurement? Does that start with Councilman or what?
Councilmember Archibong, can you hear
yes.
me?
I can.
Okay, this is Nina Hickson. Yes, I think that what you would do is make a request of both procurement and law to look at and make recommendations in terms of strategies that we may be able to employ, whether it's the way that we evaluate, proposals or responses, and if there's some way to adjust the weight such that there could be a benefit to someone who agrees. We just can't mandate it, but we can certainly look at whether we can give people a greater amount of credit for agreeing to, if they, agree to do it, then it's fine. So I would think that you would just ask us to take a look at it and come back with some proposals.
All right, Ms. Kempson-White, consider that an ask, and we look forward to getting some feedback from whatever departments of purview can best guide us. Does that sound like a plan?
Yep, it does to me.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
All right. Meanwhile, as to the paper at hand, was this on substitute? I'm sorry.
I still have a question, Mr. Shook.
I'm sorry, Ms. Shepard, you're up.
So, I'm going to piggyback off from what Ms. Archibald was saying, because when we're talking about security services, but, this is an issue citywide. I know there was an issue even in terms of the people who actually clean our buildings, in terms of how much they make. And I would tell you across the country, if we look at, $7.25, that's less than $20,000 a year for somebody making a salary and working, who can live off of that, and that's before taxes. So I find that to be something as a city that, as we talk about living wages for our employees, and as we're doing contract work with all these contractors that we have across the city, I really would like us to look at as a city, how can we address that? Can it be addressed? And if there's any, just more discussion on that. Thank you.
All right, no, thank you. Other questions or comments? All right. And I'm sorry, was this on substitute?
No, there was no substitute.
All right. I agree. We need to look into this and fully understand kind of where the electric, rails are in terms of this contract and the continued provision of these services. Are there additional questions or a motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, Westmoreland.
Questions or comments? The vote's open. I know this is difficult. All right, 5-0, and we do have an abstention. All right, next item is, all right, we're going to take several of these as a block. These are Councilmember Carey Ford papers, first of which is 20-1519. This is by Mr. Matschkite, authorizing a donation in the amount not to exceed $5,000 from the District 8 Carey Ford account to Flock Safety to assist the Westminster Milmar Homeowners Association, Inc. with the purchase of a license plate reading camera. With no objection, we'll also take 20-1520, an ordinance by Ms. Archibald, authorizing the transfer of $30,000 from the District 5 Carry Forward account to the District 5 distribution account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and other purposes. Also number 15, aka 0-1527, an ordinance by Mr. Brown authorizing the transfer of $15,000 from the Council District 3 Carry Forward account Council District 3 distribution account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and for other purposes. And lastly, 20-1533, an ordinance by Ms. Hyde authorizing a donation of $5,000 from the District 6 carry forward account to helping empower youth, otherwise known as HAY Incorporated, to support efforts to improve opportunities for youth and for other purposes. Any questions or comments? I'll make a motion to approve, and I see someone has a question, and that's Ms. Archibald.
Is Ms. Hyde on the phone?
Well, I hope not, because she told me she couldn't chair this meeting.
Okay. I'll talk to her offline about Hay. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All right. Now go ahead and make the first. Mr. Westmoreland makes the second. Any questions or comments? If not, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. All four of those items are approved as a foursome. All right. And then, so we're now going back to the item.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Overstreet, I believe, is on the phone and wanted to speak after we voted on those items before we move on.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Ms. Overstreet, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I wanted to speak about the legislation because I want to thank Councilmember I for actually transferring money in order to help the youth entrepreneurs around Atlanta, whether it be Hay or any other organization that is partnering with the boys that are actually, these are the boys that are usually selling the water on the corners or doing other things throughout the city. But Hay steps in to help guide them and show them a way to embrace the things that they're really good at and help them figure out what they may not know that their strengths are, and to also stir up their entrepreneurial spirit. I am the vice chair of the convened advisory council for youth entrepreneurship from the administration. We turned in our recommendations last week to address concerns throughout the city for our youth, and wanted to make sure that you all know that now there will be a pipeline for these initiatives and individuals and organizations that may be interested in supporting solutions for our youth. We have an email address that I'd like to share that you can have everyone email into to offer guidance and, for our youth mentorship, nonprofits, private, it doesn't matter. It's going to really take all of us to lean all the way in to make sure that these youth are guided and shored up, including APS and everyone. So as the mayor and her team look through our recommendations, I would like for everyone to continue to pour in suggestions and offer help. So the email address is youthentrepreneur@atlantaga.gov. And everyone, we spell it like youthentrepreneur@atlantaga.gov. And thanks again to Councilmember I, because it will take all of us, and I do mean all of us, leaning in to make sure that we are guiding our youth as best we can. And I will fill you all in on more information as soon as we get the details of which recommendations and the implementation phases. I'll fill you all in on that. And Councilmember Archibald, I would love to speak with you also, since you
want to talk about, hey, I'd like to hear what you have to say with that too, or any other suggestions that you may have.
Yeah, I've got my speaker button pushed. I was going to do it right now, Mr. Shook.
Yeah. You got it.
Okay. Yes, I passed out the recommendations that came from the committee that you just referenced to some neighborhood leaders, and the immediate question, what I was going to ask Ms. Ide was, I want to join in her paper, and I'll do it on Monday, and add some money to her amount, probably mirror her amount, so it'd be $10,000. But for you in particular, the question that was asked of me was, where's the money coming from, and who's in charge of implementation, and how can community get involved in helping?
So that's going to depend on the recommendations that the administration actually will be rolling out. You know, they're going to work with internal and external partners, which will include Invest Atlanta and WorkSource, you know, for training, paid training for the youth. We're going to partner with APS. I'm not sure if they've, you know, started that ball rolling yet, but it's going to look like us sending in highly trained, certified individuals working inside a school system and in partnering with different organizations, like, for example, the YMCA has offered to host markets in their space. So it's going to look like a whole lot of different things. So the money will actually be coming from private and public partnerships for the city. People are actually calling in, emailing me, getting lots of donations from everywhere in terms of partnerships with nonprofits, people that have been in this space for a very long time, and hopefully it will feel like us offering vocation and trade inside the school as well as after school, just the same way that I was supported and had a wealth of resources available when I was in Atlanta Public School System. So I just think that we're on a nice long road for sustainable change in how we embrace our youth. And right now that actually looks like, you know, this whole sector of young black boys. And so, you know, that's the short answer, but we can talk more.
Okay, so the list of recommendations, there will be culling through that to see what the priorities are. The partnerships will be some of the entities that you described, and I guess if the community members want to be involved, they can partner then with those partner organizations that will be working on this initiative. Does that sound about right?
And email, because some people that are contacting us are actual, you know, they're entities in their own right. So we will be vetting them to see how they could better either go into the school system to, you know, mentor the youth, or some other ways. You know, we just hadn't identified that yet because we don't know exactly which recommendations she will accept. So it just, you know, it really is very fluid still until we get, you know, those items already checked off the list of what we're actually working on. But we're still we actually have subcommittees that are still working on certain things, because everything doesn't have to go through the administration, because, you know, our youth need our help today. So we're still working on quite a few things. So, but yeah, so there are different scenarios for different outreaches.
All right. Well, thank you for your hard work on this. This is an important initiative, and I appreciate your giving us this update, and I know we can expect to have more as progress is being made. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you too. And thanks again, Chair, for allowing me to speak today.
No, I'm sorry. I overlooked you, but thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Not a problem. All righty. Talk to you guys soon.
All right. And do we have a motion?
To approve, I'll make.
Yeah. Well, we already did.
We've already taken the vote as a block.
Well, I'll make them do it one more time.
But it's, well, But if so, Ms. Archibong, did you want to perhaps reconsider, send it forward with no recommendation? If you want to add your name, or if we can pull it off consent, it's dealer's choice.
Yeah, I sent Ms. Ida a text, and I want to be respectful of what she feels about this. I can do, Ms. Tammy, I can do this on Monday as well, right?
Sure. Yes, sir, you can.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll talk to her, and if it's a yes, then I'll pull it off consent, unfortunately, and then we'll do an amendment.
That's fine. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. No, good for you. Thank you. We've done 15 and 16.
We skipped over item number 14.
Impossible. All right.
It's 20-15-23, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract in an amount not to exceed blank with Fulton and DeKalb counties to conduct a special election on November 3rd, 2020, to determine the approval or non-approval by the residents of the City of Atlanta of a homestead exemption from City of Atlanta ad valorem taxes for municipal purposes in the amount of $30,000 of the assessed value of the homestead for residents of the city who hold real property subject to a written lease, having an initial term of not less than 99 years with a landlord that is an entity exempt from taxation under Section 501c3 of the Federal Internal Revenue Code, and who owns all improvements located on the real property, to appoint the Fulton and DeKalb County Boards of Registration and Elections acting as its agent, as municipal election superintendent for conducting said election, as absentee ballot clerk, and as a municipal registrar, and for other purposes. And we did receive a request to hold this.
I'll make a motion to hold.
Second.
Questions or comments? If not, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. It passes. We have Ms. Archibong.
Thank you. I just heard from Ms. Ide, and she is okay with me adding to her paper now. That way it can be on consent. So I have a motion to reconsider 20-0-1533.
Second. Questions or comments? If not, let's open that vote.
One moment, we'll prepare the vote. The vote is open.
All right, unanimously, it's back before us, Ms. Archibong.
Yes, sir. I'd like to send the by at $5 the DIP5 for
Ms. Archibong, you totally broke up on me. Could you repeat, please?
It's better. Can you hear me now? I hate to say that.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. The amendment I'd like to put forth is to amend this paper to add an additional $5,000 to the current paper, and that $5,000 would be derived from the Council District 5 carry forward account. That's my amendment.
All right.
So it'd be a total of $10,000. 5 from District 6 and 5 from District 5. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Westmoreland, then Mr. Dickens.
Yeah, assuming we can do all this together, I'd like to both add my name and I'm going to do $1,000 out of the Post-to-at-Large carry forward account.
Mr. Dickens.
Yeah, and I was going to do the same. I was going to do $1,000. I don't know where Miss Archibong gets all her money from, but I'll just do $1,000.
Do I hear 1,500? Do I hear 1,500? Ms. Shepherd, you're up. Ms. Shepherd.
I'm gonna follow Mr. Dickens in Westmoreland with $1,000.
All right.
I want to respond to James, but you invoked what word? Invoke.
If I were
you're
no, I said if I
breaking
were
up again.
If I were at large, I would do less, but I can see the concentration within my district. So thank you.
Okay. Any other bit
for Matsakite? I'd like to do $1,001.
Funny.
Awesome.
All right. Matsakite's in for 1,001. Going once, going twice. Ms. Santana, do you have these amendments?
Yes, sir, and it's actually going to be a substitute. I have Councilmember Dickens, Westmoreland, and Shepherd, $1,000. Councilmember Mazzakite, $1,001, and Councilmember Archibald, $5,000.
I would like to make that 5,002. I'm just kidding.
All right. Let's vote on the amendment. I will move approval of the amendment.
Second. Oh, wait a minute.
Second, Ms. Archibald. If there's no questions or comments, let's vote on that amendment.
The vote is open for the substitute.
Can we, hold on one sec. We just got a message from Marcy. Can we add her name and $1,000 to this while we vote on it?
1,002?
No, just a straight up 1,000. She's joining Team 1K.
Let's add her. Ms. Santana, can we add this to the amendment before we vote?
Yes, we've added her name.
All right. Vote's open. All right. Survey says.
Will everyone please vote?
They're reaching for their checkbooks. All right. 6-0. The ayes have it. The amendment is passed.
I'll make it approve as amended.
You know, I just wonder if there's going to be others who weren't on this call, so we can either do that, people can pull it off, or send it forward with no rec, Ms. Archibong. It's dealer's choice.
Ms. Archibong doesn't like no recommendations.
I don't have the answer. Let's add that to the list. I do think other people are going to want to add on to it.
I'm just trying to make this easier for me, who's giving the committee report.
I defer to you then.
No, it's, go ahead.
Let me ask Ms. Santana, if there's a motion to approve on substitute on condition, would be a workaround. So my motion is to approve on substitute on condition that we allow other council members to join in if they.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
She joined council exactly the same time as me, yet she's so much smarter.
Second.
Okay.
To me being smarter or... Oh.
All of the above.
That's the motion, which I will second. Without questions or comments, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, and there you have it, 6-0. All right. Thank you, Ms. Overstreet. Look what you did. All right, are we all ready to... Where are we now?
We are at item number 17, 20-1550, which has a substitute.
Yes, these are Ms. Smith's bond issues. Please read the substitute caption.
Gladly. An ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, supplementing the restated and amended Master Bund Ordinance of the City of Atlanta adopted on March 20th, 2000 as previously amended and supplemented, providing for the issuance by the City of Atlanta of its airport general revenue refunding bonds and its airport passenger facility charge and subordinate lien general revenue refunding bonds in the combined aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $1,140,000,000 comprised of City of Atlanta Airport General Revenue Refunding Bonds, Series 2020A, and City of Atlanta Airport General Revenue Refunding Bonds, Series 2020B, and City of Atlanta Airport General Revenue Refunding Bonds, Taxable Series 2020C, and City of Atlanta Airport Passenger Facility Charge and Subordinate Lien General Revenue Refunding Bonds, Taxable Series 2020D, and together with the Series 2020A bonds, the Series 2020B bonds, the Series 2020C bonds, the Series 2020 refunding bonds, providing funds for the purpose of, among other things, refunding and redeeming all or a portion of the outstanding Series 2010C bonds, Series 2011 AB bonds, Series 2012 ABC bonds, Series 2014 BC bonds, and Series 2019 ABEF bonds, as further described herein, providing for a reasonably required debt service reserve, providing for the forms and authorizing the execution of said Series 2020 refunding bonds, providing for the rights of the holders of said Series 2020 refunding bonds, authorizing and approving the preparation, use, and distribution of a preliminary official statement, and a final official statement in connection with the offer and sale of said Series 2020 refunding bonds, granting the Chief Financial Officer, the City Finance Officer, or Airport Manager the authority to deem final the preliminary official statement for purposes of Securities and Exchange Commission's Rule 15C-212, granting the Chief Officer, the City Finance Officer, or Airport Manager the authority to approve and execute a final official statement, authorizing the execution of a continuing disclosure agreement, a bond purchase agreement, an escrow deposit agreement, and certain other agreements in connection with said Series 2020 refunding bonds, and providing for incidental action, authorizing the negotiation and purchase of municipal bond insurance and the selection of a bond insurer with respect to all or a portion of said Series 2020 refunding bonds, if determined to be in the best interest of the city, designating an escrow agent, paying agent, and bond registrar, providing for severability, tongue-tied, authorizing certain officials and employees of the city to take all actions required in connection with the issuance of said Series 2020 refunding bonds, providing certain other details with respect thereto, providing an effective date, providing an authorization of certain conditional amendments to the Master Bund Ordinance, and for other related purposes.
Okay. You get about a C+ on that one. Is Smith presenting?
We have members of the law department on.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Hey, this is John Gaffney. How are you doing this afternoon?
Well, that's the existential question of our time, isn't it?
Well, let me start by introducing myself. It's John Gaffney. I'm the Deputy CFO. I'm going to take a stab at explaining this to you in the committee, and I've also got members from law as well as external law on the line if you have any supplemental questions. But essentially what this is doing is it's seeks authorization for the issuance of 4 new series of aviation debt, Series 20A, B, C, and D. The reason for the different issues is to address the different debt types, meaning AMT or private use or private activity bonds, non-AMT, general aviation revenue bonds, as well as passenger facility charge bonds. The series that are contemplated are the 2010 Cs and the 2011 AB, which are at this
well, by the time we get to market, we'll be eligible for a tax-exempt refunding. Because of the tax law change back in 2017, 2018, it limited the ability for government to refinance tax-exempt debt until you were a certain proximity to the call date of the bond. And so at this point, the 2012 series as well as the 2014 series, if we're in the market this fall, they would have to be done on a taxable basis. But nonetheless, there's still significant cash flow savings that would benefit the airport. And even on a taxable basis right now, it's in excess of $60 million of present value cash flow savings, which is about over 20% of the outstanding par. And then on the tax exempt basis, which at this point is a for sure, we would for sure go to market with these issues, is on the 2011 Bs and the 2010 Cs, it's present value savings in excess of $100 million, or about 22% of par value. The substitute was only done to put in the not to exceed amount of $1.1 billion. The legislation itself was drafted to give maximum flexibility to the finance department as well as its advisors. As we get closer to the date we'll be in the market, we can make the decision whether we want to move forward with any of the taxable transactions. Taxable transactions can be good, but obviously if we want to maximize the savings to the city, and so as we get closer to the date of going to market, we can make that decision. But as drafted, this gives us the maximum flexibility of making that decision for the airport and for the city. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Mr. Westmoreland.
Thank you. Appreciate your description, Mr. Gaffney. I know this is one of a couple, I think at least, bond papers. The next one may be on water and wastewater. Talk a little bit about the municipal bond market. What is making things so favorable for us to take this action today?
Well, I think the biggest thing for municipal issuers these days is that rates are at historic lows, right? So we don't. I'm not a seer, but I don't see how rates could get a whole lot lower. The bond market has since mid-March really rebounded, and there's been good appetite in the markets for municipal securities. And so I think that again, as I tried to describe, on a tax-exempt basis, this absolutely makes sense to do that transaction. And even on a taxable basis, where rates are today, it still generates over $60 million of cash flow savings. And obviously, one of the big motivating reasons for doing this at this time is not only because the rates are low, but also because the airport has been severely impacted from a revenue standpoint, and we're looking to give them as much cash flow relief in the near term as possible.
No, that all makes sense and is good to hear. Thank you.
All right, I have a related question. What is the finance department's kind of diagnosis of the immediate and intermediate future of civil aviation under the circumstances?
So I take you're looking for what the experts are looking at as far as what the industry looks like in 3 to 5 years. Is that?
Yep.
Okay. I'm talking off the top of my head. If someone's on from the airport or one of the anyone else that may know this, but I believe that airline traffic is not going to get back to most experts agree that it might be 85 to 90% of post COVID traffic levels in about 3.5 years. So it's going to take a bit for the industry to come back. And longer term, meaning 5 years and out, I do believe that most folks think that it will return to pre-COVID levels of travel.
All right, sorry to put you on the spot. Is there anyone from aviation here? Mr. Selden, by any chance?
Yes, sir. John Selden, the general manager of Hartsfield-Jackson, is here, sir.
All right, Captain, go ahead.
So, domestic traffic we expect to have back hopefully in about 2 years. We're expecting to be at 50% of where we were May of 2021. Obviously, everything hinges on a vaccine. We do believe that a full recovery will take probably up to 4 years to get us back up to 110 million passengers. But for the bonds, our business future is good. The coupon is a good price. It pays. We're dependable. We're a hub of Delta, which is we're the home of Delta, which proves to be very good because there's a huge investment by Delta Airlines here at Hartsfield-Jackson, which provides stability when we go out forward that this airport is just not going to be like a Cincinnati that was where Delta had a hub and decided to move it. This is their home. So that plants some roots here in our bond rating. Secondly, we are the major hubs are going to recover faster than the outlying mid-size airports. Dallas is we're doing well. Dallas is doing well in terms of recovery. Denver is doing well. Chicago is doing well. The hubs here will recover faster than the other airports. So from a perspective of running the business here, we expect we'll be in good shape. Probably pretty close to what John said. Probably in 2 years we should be at a very good number here. But the markets are going to. San Francisco just went out for bonds, and so did Dallas-Fort Worth, and they did fairly well in the bond market.
All right, thank you. The questions or comments from Mr. Selden? Other general questions or comments or a motion?
Move approval, Westmoreland.
Okay, so we're not holding this for anything else to catch up. We're moving it forward. Correct, Finance?
That is correct.
Special call or no?
We will have a special call for the pricing resolution. I don't have the date right off the top of my head, but yes, we will have another special call.
Okay. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Matt Skite. If there's no other questions or comments, let's open the vote.
The vote is open to bring the substitute forward.
I'll need to vote verbally. Yes, this is Archibald.
Okay. Substitutes before us. Questions or comments on substitute? Seeing none, let's open the vote. Ms. Archibald, did Greenviewer kick you off?
Absolutely. I'm trying to see. I'm back.
Okay. All right. Is the vote open?
1 moment, please. We're opening the vote.
Thank you.
The vote is open.
Please vote. All right, consent agenda. Thank you. All right, this brings us to our next issue, which is also a bond paper brought to us by Ms. Smith. And is the caption different?
There is no change to this caption.
All right. This is 20-015-51 ordinance by Ms. Smith, authorizing Series 2020 YISIA bond ordinance to ratify, reaffirm, supplement, and amend that certain master bond ordinance adopted on March 31, 1999. It's previously supplemented and amended to provide for the issuance by the City of Atlanta of its water and wastewater drawdown revenue bond, North Fork Project, taxable Series 2020 on a drawdown basis in the maximum aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $61,949,715 for the purpose of evidencing the city's obligation to pay a certain Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act loan from the United States Environmental Protection Agency and for other purposes. And who's going to walk us through this?
Chair Shook, this is John Gaffney again. I'm going to take a stab at just describing the financing vehicle, but I've also got Mohammed Bala from the Water Department on to answer any questions about the project. So this paper is looking for authorization to issue the Series 2020 with the Water Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act revenue drawdown bonds. The WIFIA Act has been around since 2014 and was created to really accelerate the investment in the nation's water infrastructure. Governments are invited to apply for this program, and the watershed was invited to apply. Mohammed could correct me, but I believe it was back in 2017. We've been kind of looking at the program, and this North Fork project was approved, and the sort of compelling thing about the WIFIA program is it's kind of flexibility. In other words, it's not like a bond closing where you're on the hook for P&I right from the get-go. They have flexible payment plans. You can do drawdowns as you need to. But from a finance perspective, the most attractive thing for us is the fact that the interest rates associated with the program are essentially treasury rates. And so, for example, right now, a 30-year loan would be about 1.32% interest rate. So, super competitive, interest rates and flexibility was kind of why we chose to pursue the program. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions.
For the purpose of evidencing the city's obligation to repay, I don't recall seeing language like that before.
Yes, I may have to have law jump in for that. That's a new one for me as well.
Yeah, I'd like to get a little context on that, if there's anyone on the line. Evidencing the city's obligation to repay. And is this a consent decree obligation? That's another question.
Mohammed Bala, this is not a direct consent decree obligation, but it is helping with that same underlying issue. So this will be an offline storage tank, pump station diversion for peak wet weather sewage flow from the Peachtree Creek Norfolk Track sewer basin.
Well, hang on right there. So would this be a companion tank to the tank already constructed for this purpose, or am I confusing projects?
No, yeah, this is going to be a new tank. So it's going to be an offline storage tank with an on-site pump station, diversion structures that's going to help alleviate the peak flows from the Peachtree Creek Basin. So this is stuff that's coming down from the cab to our system as well.
No, understood. Have you had discussions with District 6?
I believe the engineering team has had discussions with everybody involved, yeah.
We'll find out on Monday. Evidencing the city's obligation to repay. What does that phraseology mean?
I'm going to leave that up to the law department, but I essentially think because this is a new money deal, so it has to go through a bond validation requirement, which shows the health of the system, and that the fact that we have substantial or enough revenues to cover our obligation once we borrow these funds from workers.
Okay. Is there anyone from law who can provide some background here? Any bond lawyers?
Hi, Councilmember Shook. This is Amber from Law. I just wanted to jump in and let you know that we are trying to contact a bond attorney or somebody who is familiar with this to get you this answer.
Okay. Well, thank you for babysitting us. Other questions or comments about this proposal from committee members? Wow. They're trying to rustle somebody up. I mean, as I recall, and this predates some of us, but I think some of us kind of knew that the original tank, as controversial as it was, and it was, would not be enough. So the siding contemplated the second tank, which I guess is this proposed project. There were horrible, terrible, very predictable overflows downstream, which I imagine this is meant to rectify, but, other people are, but I'm not carrying that water, so other people have to chime in here. Hello? Hello? Hello, does someone need to be unmutated?
Mr. Shook, we're waiting for another member of the law department to join us, and we'll be unmuting them shortly.
Okay. Is this in council or?
The member we're waiting for is not outside counsel. I believe they are still working on getting the outside counsel to join the call.
Okay. All right. Well, perhaps we should move on. We do have other items.
And this is Bill Selby. It's waiting on me.
Hey, Mr. Selby.
Hello. Councilman Shook?
Yes, sir. If you're in a U-boat, can you mute your phone?
Yep.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. What can you tell us about this proposal?
I did not hear the caption. I apologize, Councilman.
Okay, this is, we're talking about ordinance 1551, and the question revolves around the phrase, it's a $62 million bond paper for the purpose of evidencing the city's obligation to repay a certain Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act loan. And I think that's kind of where we're hung up and would like some background.
Okay, so this is the WIFIA paper, right? So this is the yes. Okay,
yes.
So the Department of Watershed Management applied for and received a water infrastructure innovation finance loan, and so that loan is just another. That's right. So it's through the federal. EPA awarded the loan, and it was a competitive process. So not many water departments across the country competed to be able to have access to these funds. And to my knowledge, there are only 2 departments in the state, Atlanta and DeKalb, that actually got selected for these programs. And so it's a federal program that's modeled after the same protection does, called TIFIA. So TIFIA and WIFIA, that's what it is. The department negotiated this loan, and it's for the North Fork project, which I suspect hopefully the department can describe the nature of the project, but that's what the stated purpose is for. It's styled as a loan, but in reality, what is before you is just another issue of senior lien bonds under your master bond ordinance. So it's called a loan. That's what the federal government calls it, but it's really, we're issuing the federal government a bond. And so it'll be a single bond. Instead of selling it in the open market, we'll be placing it with the federal government at an extremely low interest rate. And perhaps someone from finance could tell you what the interest rate is expected to be.
Okay, so that explains the, quote, evidencing the city's obligation to repay? Because understand, that's disorienting for us. I don't think any of us have seen that before.
You're correct. It's the first one that I've done for the city. But it is in fact just another bond issue, but it styles a loan.
All right. That's helpful. Is anyone familiar with this, with Watershed on the line?
Yeah, this is Mohammed.
Hey, Mr. Brown. So, am I right? Is this to construct the second tank?
Well, yeah, it's to help with that. I don't think it's as big as that first tank, but it is to help and augment that wet flow that is associated with the Peachtree Creek Basin. So there'll be a mini offline storage tank, and another a small pump station, diversion structures, temporary storage for off-peak wet weather sewage flow. So I don't think it's as big as that initial tank, but the project is intended to complement the work that's already been done in that basin, and as you know, help alleviate the overflow that are caused from that basin.
No, I remember all that. The original project was highly controversial. It got through because the downstream consequences were very ugly, and we all knew, or I remember, and some of us remember, that there was, the site contemplated a second facility, which this is. So I'm all for taking sewage out of playgrounds and everything that went on downstream from this. I'm simply asking that the District 6 council person that you debrief her and that she has full information about this, if she hasn't already.
I will definitely relay that information, Councilman member.
Sure. I mean, if these conversations haven't already occurred, that's problematic for me. Other questions or comments from council members? All right. I'm going to move approval. Is there a second?
Second, Matt McKay.
Okay. So, Mr. Bala, you're hearing our angst here.
Yes.
Other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll open the vote. Get with Ms. Hyde.
Will do.
Let's open the vote.
Can I ask a question? This is Councilman Westmoreland. We don't know whether the conversation with Councilmember Hyde has taken place, or we know it hasn't taken place.
I'm not sure if it had taken place or not. I'll reach out to the engineering folks and the folks on the project team.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions? Get with Ms. Hyde. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
The vote is open. There's apparently one abstention. 5 yeas. All right. Does that whisk us to resolutions?
Yes, it does.
Oh. Okay. The first of which is 20R 4206, resolution by the Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into a contractual agreement with RFPS DAC 12-00171 citywide digital kiosk solution with IKE Smart City LLC for the design, fabrication, installation, operation, and maintenance of interactive digital kiosks, a revenue-generating contract on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management for 3 years with 2 one-year renewals to remit 50% of the net revenue to be deposited in the account numbers listed herein, and, as always, for other purposes. And who's presenting this?
Hey, Councilman Shook, this is Gary Brantley with AIM. I'm going to turn this over.
Hey, Mr. Brantley. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you doing? I'm going to turn this over to our CTO, Ty Hayes. She's going to present this item for you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. This is CTO Hayes. Thank you for having us this afternoon. So the Smart City kiosk project, we've been working on this quite a while. It is actually to digitize what we have out now is the SUFAs, and they are kind of standard standalone devices, but they are very stagnant in terms of the information and the way that they look. The kiosk, this agreement would allow the city to deploy digital kiosks similar to other metropolitan cities that will not only provide guidance and information relative to the area that they are in, but they also allow the city to provide Wi-Fi capabilities, free Wi-Fi capabilities where they are, emergency response, and also security, because they're also equipped with cameras that will tie back into our police department. And the model is that the company, IKE, would produce or fund the project 100%. And then once they've recouped the funding or the spending that they've put in place to place these units out, then that would be a split of revenue for 50% with the city. And as mentioned in the summary, it's a 3-year agreement with 2 one-year option agreements.
All right. Yeah, I've looked at some of the handouts, So will these kiosks be all over the city or just along the Peachtree spine?
So we will, as part of the solicitation, we reserve the right to determine where placement would be. The intent would be after we are able to execute a contract, we would have meetings with representatives from council, the mayor's office, public works, DOT, to come up with a master plan for distribution and to try to use these devices to solve some of the other issues or concerns that we have in the city around safety or digital access and so forth. So we would then determine that master plan, but there's not been any commitment in terms of where they would specifically go.
I'll yield for now to Ms. Shepard and then Mr. Westmoreland.
So yes, I found this to be really interesting. I haven't had a chance to have a one-on-one with Mike. However, my question is along the lines of Mr. Shook. Where would they be? I think that this could be good. For instance, if they were at MARTA bus stop, Mr. Shook said Peachtree Street, but I see this in a whole different application. I see this as something that could be great, for instance, for people who ride MARTA. I don't know if you're going to have them next to, I don't know if you're going to be tied into any kiosk with MARTA or something by MARTA as people are catching the bus who are working class, blue-collar folks who just ride the bus. Other ways that we can use these kiosks in the neighborhood so that it's not just applying to a certain social group of people, but it could be something in terms of revolutionary in terms of looking at, like, for instance, alerts when things go out in terms of alerts, trash, a lot of different things. I do see the applications in terms of what it can be used for, parks and outdoors, social services, jobs. I mean, it's just so many different things. Actually, the fact that it will have Wi-Fi, emergency preparedness, art and culture, safe shelters. I mean, I see the potential for this being something that really could be great, but it would have to be deployed all over the city and not just a certain group of the city. My question is, based on where we are with the beginning, how many are we going to put out? What is the funding for it? And do we have a mapping of how we put out across the city? Because I think it's relevant that it be put out in equity across the city of Atlanta if we're going to do this. So those are my questions.
Sure. And just so you know, as part of when we were actually looking to do this, most of the cities that we did do a lot of investigation with did have them integrated in their transit system, arenas for sports, any of their high traffic areas. We've talked about them possibly being at the Beltline to help. We've talked about them being in communities near libraries and schools to help expand some of the Wi-Fi capabilities. But what we did not do in the solicitation is commit to any particular area. We did talk about how the city was made up. We did want there to be a project, the initial project timeline where we piloted various areas throughout the city. So we would be looking for each council member to, have representation on a planning committee that we had, and then we would also look to partner with MARTA as well.
So do we have an idea as we begin how many kiosks are we going to have? Do we have a number? Go ahead.
The initial implementation was 50, a minimum of 50. And then I think we had a max, if I'm remembering correctly, was a max potentially up to 1,500, depending on how the city wanted to deploy. We did want to see some benefit around, before we started to just rapidly put them out. We did want to get some information and, make sure that it was providing the value to the city that we wanted without committing to putting them all over if it wasn't something the city wanted to continue with. So that initial deployment was about 50 devices.
Well, like I said, I just want to emphasize that if we do this, we need to make sure we're doing it in a way that it is really, if we're going to pilot it not just in one concentrated area of the city, but all over, and actually do a whole demonstration of how it can be used on so many different levels and not just one particular level, which is food, we're going to a restaurant and all of that, but how it can be used across the city for so many different things. I mean, we talk about Department of Public Works, trash, and so many things that we can be marketed in terms of putting out information about so many different things. And so I see potential here, especially around our bus stops and other parts of the city, but I just want to make sure that it's going to be rolled out in a way that it is a balance across the city, and that we use, if we only have 50, look at it in terms of different applications across the city. That's all I'm asking. But I do like that. Yeah. That's all I have, Mr. Shook.
All right, thank you, Mr. Westmore. Then Ms. Archer.
Thank you. A couple questions. I'm not sure if they're best for AIM or for finance. Toward the end of the caption, it references remitting 50% of net revenue to be deposited in the account numbers listed herein. My two-part question is, what, over the next 3 years with 2 one-year renewals, do we anticipate that potential revenue to be? And then once we have deposited it into the Smart ATL Trust Fund, what do we foresee potential uses of that money for in the future?
So I'll answer the first part. The city did not have a funding stream set aside for smart cities initiatives or those types of that type of innovation projects. So this was an area that we saw as a way to potentially do that. We don't have projection. We did see the projections from the vendor with their submittals, but we don't have any set revenue amounts yet. We did talk about putting some things in writing when we get through the negotiations to have some SLAs in terms of meeting certain thresholds, so the city could determine if it's, again, worth doing. And then we did work with finance and the law department to set up the structure, but I'll defer to Mr. Brantley for kind of how that was structured.
Yes, this is Gary. So as it relates to your second question around what the funds will be used for, right now, this was actually just really put in place to really bring revenue into the city. So one of the focuses that we had as a part of our ATL Smart City project, and also for our overall strategy for AIM, is to really look for ways to try to bring in revenue sources to the city. And so, we have no specific use for where that money would go. We just want to make sure that we start to look at different types of technologies and different operational efficiencies to help bring in, revenue to the city.
Yeah, no, I'm supportive of the paper, the idea, and all of that bringing revenue in. Ballpark, based on, do we have a sense from other cities? I mean, do we think it's going to be $500,000 a year, $5 million a year? I mean, which one of those numbers do we think will be closer to?
Yes, the estimate that they gave us was close to about $6.7 million a year.
Okay. Thank you much.
Ms. Archibald.
Yes, thank you. Let me take it off speaker. I just wanted to just say as a comment, I understand that the manufacturer of this device, I asked about for the visually impaired, and apparently there's going to be the capacity installed so that our visually impaired constituents and visitors to the city will be able to have a voice-activated system in place to help them enjoy the benefits of this as well. So I just wanted to say to our commissioner, I'm really glad that we selected a company, or this company is going to make sure that we don't have ADA issues, and that all citizens and guests will be able to benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to add, they are working with the National Federation for the Blind. And so it also has some in-house capabilities around text enhancement, et cetera. So, and speech to text as well. So thank you, Councilwoman.
No, thank you.
Yeah, great point. Is this wheelchair accessible?
Yes, it will be. And we will work with the CIDs and also our Public Works Department to make sure that we have these kiosks in places that are accessible for those who need them.
Okay. So let me understand the business transaction, if I may. So the vendor makes their money via advertising, correct?
That is correct.
And then the city has some kind of say in advertising or what comes up as a result of search. Is that right? Or, elucidate me.
Yes.
We
so
go ahead,
Gary.
No,
the way that it's structured, the city will have maintain the control of the content that's city related and to the points that were brought up earlier. If there are any alerts, announcements, anything that need to be communicated, the city will be able to control that. And also we ask that the units be flexible enough that we don't have stagnant information that has to be placed on all of them. That's the same. The units can be customized to be specific to the particular area that they're in, address the issues and needs of that particular community, and those would be things that could be managed and driven by the city.
Okay, so if there's an Amber Alert, if there's a particular market station that's closed down because of a gas main break, that all gets transmitted, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, but what happens if a civilian punches in, I want to know where to go for a burp? Who controls what they get back?
And it's my understanding that those will be the APIs and things that have been configured for that particular area, and it would bring back the information, the directory information for that specific area that individual is in. Of course, if there's paid advertisement, those may get priority or be presented first, similar to a Google search or something like that, but they would still receive all of the information that's relative to that area that they're in if they're asking or looking for a specific something.
Okay, so, all right. So here's one thing I potentially like about this is it could be a benefit to local family-owned businesses, correct?
Correct.
All right. Questions or comments from the committee?
Move approval.
I will second. Other questions or comments? Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Matsukite, yay.
All right, 6-0, motion carries. That brings us to 20R4207, resolution by Finance Exec, authorizing the mayor or designated to exercise renewal option number 2 of a cooperative purchase agreement with SHI International Corp. for the purchase of Minerva anti-evasion ransomware prevention solution, utilizing the Georgia statewide contract number, which is indicated here, on behalf of the Department of Land Information Management, Department of Watershed Management, and Department of Aviation, in amount not to exceed $137,900, effective August 31 of this year through August 30 of next year, for 1 year, with one remaining renewal term option, all contract work to be charged to and paid for, etc. And who is presenting this?
This is Gary Brantley again, Councilman Shook. This is a renewal for our ransomware evasion product that we've been using for a little over a year now. We're going into renewal year 2. We've done an extensive We've collected an extensive amount of information on this product, its effectiveness and its usefulness to the city. And so in talking with both Aviation Watershed and also the general fund technicians and engineers, we are requesting that we renew this item for another year.
Do we know who took us down 3 years ago?
Yes, I believe there were 2 Iranians who were charged with that, according to what was put out by the FBI.
Any arrests?
I don't think any arrests have happened yet.
All right. Thank you. Other questions or comments? I'll move approval.
Second.
All right. Westmoreland seconds. If there's anything else, let's vote.
The vote is open.
All right. 6-0. Motion carries. Next item is Resolution 4209. The Supply Finance Exec Committee authorizing Resolution 20R4053 adopted by the City Council June 16th of this year and approved as per City Charter section, which is indicated for the purpose of changing the procurement designation for the FC indicated open expenditures application from a co-op to a special procurement. So was this incorrectly styled at the beginning, and this is what we're cleaning up now? I don't know if that's AIM or procurement.
I'm sorry, Councilman. Can you repeat? I heard you say AIM or procurement. Is this in reference to 20R4208?
No, and thank you. This is number 22, R4209, correcting a from special agreement to special procurement from a for SOAP grant. Socrata.
I would have to defer to procurement on this.
Is there anyone from procurement on the line? This is open checkbook, by the way.
Councilman, this is Gary Brantley again. This item was not brought to legislation by AIM, so that's why you hear the silence.
Okay, fair enough.
Councilmember, this was a Department of Finance item that appeared on our agenda. I believe there is someone on from the Department of Law if needed, as well as the Department of Procurement.
Motion to hold.
That is unmuted.
Yeah. All right. Either one.
Second, Matsakite.
Any departmental feedback here?
Council Chair, this is John Gaffney. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I am not familiar. I do know that finance holds the contract with Socrata. However, I'm not aware of why the procurement methodology was changed. So we'll have to look into that and get back to the committee.
All right. There's a motion and a second to hold. Any other questions? If not, let's open that vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote. All right, 6-0. Items held. Next is item 23, 20R4210, resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the City of Atlanta to accept, on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, a donation of $35,000 from Hulu LLC to support the maintenance of an artwork installation dedicated to Coretta Scott King and women's equality from a Saya Wolfhawk on city property adjacent to the Martin Luther King Jr. Visitor Center, located as indicated, to be deposited into the account numbers listed. It's authorized to transfer such funds, the Public Art Trust Fund, receipt thereof, and for the purposes. So this acknowledges receipt of a $35,000 art-related donation. Any questions or comments?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no questions, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. And dadgummit, did I skip 22?
No, sir, we skipped number 21, 20R4208.
Oh, then we skipped that and 22 probably.
No, number 22 we're okay with. We held it.
20R4208 is a resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor or designate to execute a concessions agreement with the Georgia Lottery Corporation pursuant to the section indicated of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinance, sole source procurement to operate Georgia Lottery retail concessions at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and for other purposes. Who's going to walk us through this?
It'll be John Selden, the general manager of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport.
Go ahead, Captain.
Yes, sir. So we have 3 stores, one over by the North Baggage Claim, one over by the South Baggage Claim, and a new one over on Concourse B. 5 years with a 5-year option. They grossed last year $6.7 million. The airport received $397,000. We get 6% of their gross revenue, which is outstanding. But most importantly, when someone wins the jackpot of the Powerball or Mega Millions, the airport will get $50,000. So we're looking forward to moving forward the Georgia Lottery, sir.
Has that ever happened?
Not tomorrow. No, it has not yet. But we have our fingers crossed this year.
Second. Motion to approve by, I believe, Dickens, second by Westmoreland. Questions or comments? If not, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. Consent agenda. And that, all right. Having skipped that, where are we now?
We're now at item number 24, 20R4211, and we do have an amendment for that piece. There is no change to the caption.
Oh, excellent. That's 20R4211, a resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into a special procurement agreement as listed with N-Court LLC Collection Services pursuant to this code section indicated City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for the collection of fines and fees on behalf of the Municipal Court of Atlanta with a budget neutral agreement for a term of 5 years with 3 one-year renewal term options. All funds generated under this agreement shall be deposited into the et cetera. Let's take 25 as well. Same thing. 20R4212 is a resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into an agreement pursuant to determined section indicated the City of Atlanta on behalf of the Municipal Court for probation services with Judicial Corrections Services, LLC, for a term of 1 year with a 1-year renewal. All funds generated shall be deposited to, etc. Who's presenting?
Good afternoon, Chairman Stick. This is Maria Hunter, Deputy Court
Hello.
Administrator. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Hello, good afternoon, Chairman Stick. This is Maria Hunter, Deputy Court Administrator for the Municipal Court of Atlanta. Thank you for having me on the call today, and I will be presenting on both of these items of legislation. I can start with in-court, item number 24. So in-court provides for our collection of fees, fines, and fees, and it's already integrated with our case management system, Benchmark. In-court is also integrated with ATL 311's call center to receive payments. The payments that can be received are all major credit cards, Apple Pay, and Google Pay as well. The court has partnered with AIMS to ensure that in-court meets all technological security requirements. The next item, item number 25, Judicial Corrections Services, provides for management and supervision services for probationers in the municipal court. JCS is also the probation company for Fulton County, which allows for a unified approach in the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. JCS is vital to the court to increase public safety and reduce recidivism. That's all that I have for both items.
All right. Thank you. Comments? I will move approval of both.
Second, Nancy Kite.
Mr.
Yes,
Schiff,
ma'am.
I apologize. We're going to need to take those votes separately. Item number 24 is an amendment. However, item number 25 is a substitute because there is not only account information being added, but there are updates to Section 1 where we're removing language and we're updating the resolved binding language in the entire item. So those votes will need to be taken separately.
Well. All right, let's take 24. All right, well, that's got the amendment, correct, with the account information.
Do we have a motion and a second to bring the amendment forward?
No, we did not.
Motion, Westmoreland. Second, Nancy Kite.
The vote is open.
Yeah, procedural amendment adds the account information. Vote's open. And amendment passes 6-zip. I'll move approval as amended.
Second.
Second, Westmoreland. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, survey says 6-0.
And for item number 25, 20R4212, we just need a motion to bring the substitute forward.
So moved. Second.
Yeah, okay. Moved in second, and let's vote. Substitute changes the effective date and clarifies the account information. Okay.
The vote is open.
Please vote. Any substitutes before us? I'll move approval on substitute.
Second, Matt.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Will everyone please vote?
6-0. We have to substitute for the next item, but the caption does not change, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Well, then I'll read it. A resolution by Ms. Smith authorizing the sixth supplemental indenture of trust to 1, ratify, reaffirm, and supplement that certain indenture of trust dated as of December 1, 2001, relating to, among other things, the city's tax allocation variable rate bonds, West Side Project, Series 2001, as previously supplemented and amended by B, that certain first supplemental indenture of trust dated as of December 1, 2005, relating to the city's tax allocation variable rate bonds, West Side Projects, Series 2005A and Series 2005B. C, that certain second supplemental indenture of trust dated as of December 1, 2008, relating to the city's subordinate lien tax allocation variable bond rates, West Side Project, Series 2008D, that certain supplemental indenture of trust dated as November 1, 2011E, that certain fourth supplemental indenture of trust dated September 1, 2014 as F, that certain fifth supplemental indenture of trust dated as of September 1, 2017, which, among other things, authorized amendments which establish long-term rates for the Series 2001 bonds, the Series 2005A bonds, Series 2000B bonds, and the Series 2008 bonds, collectively, the bonds, authorized the Chief Financial Officer to accept the terms of the Wells Fargo Bank commitment letter with respect to establishing and resetting the long-term rates for the bonds previously listed, and execute all certificates and documents necessary to establish such long-term rates and mandatory tender date. And 3, reaffirming Wells Fargo Bank as remarketing agent with respect to the bonds in connection with such interest rate determinations and for other purposes. Who is presenting?
Good afternoon, Sheriff John Gaffney again. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, unfortunately.
I'm going to start with just a little bit of background on the West Side TAD. For those of you who may not be familiar, it was one of the early TADs, if not one of the first. It may be the first. I think Atlantic Station may have been first, but at any rate, the West Side TAD was essentially done at a time when tax increment financing was not as well established in the secondary market as it is today. And at that time, Wells Fargo was basically the only creditor who would step up to get that CAD off the ground. And so, that being said, Wells Fargo is still the only creditor in the West Side TAD, and they basically hold all of the debt internally. And because of this, and when the debt was issued originally, it's it's structured so that every 3 to 5 years the rates reset. And so this paper really does two different things. It's going to renew the bank's commitment to the series 2001, 2005A, and 2005B debt. And with that renewal comes a rate reset. And so currently across all of the issues, 2001, 2005, and 2008, we're paying about 2.04% interest. And on the 01s and the 05s, that rate's going to drop to approximately 1.54%. But we'll know that that's kind of the indicative rate today, but that will get set actually at closing. And then the second thing that this ordinance accomplishes or resolution, accomplishes is that it makes consistent a term called the margin rate factor across all 4 issues. So the margin rate factor is basically a clause that is in there so that if corporate tax rates go up, for instance, during the term of the commitment, then the bank has a factor that would essentially make them whole for that tax rate increase. The good news in this case is that because of the way the formula reads compared to the old formula, this is actually going to result in a reduction in the interest rate on the 08 series of bonds from 2.04% to 1.68%. So pretty much all good news on this reset. The 2008 series is scheduled to renew again in September of 2023, and by December of 2023, which is kind of the commitment date for the other series, 2001s and 5s, all of that debt will be amortized off at that point. And so then after 2023, the only outstanding debt is the 2008 series. And with that, take questions.
Questions?
Move approval.
I'll second. Other questions or comments? Let's vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. The substitute is before you.
Move approval on substitute.
Second. Questions or comments? Survey says.
The vote is open.
All right. Approved on substitute. All right, and my screen's going. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair, we have one item for the held section that needs to move forward today with the substitute. It's item number 39, 20R 4059, and the caption did change.
All right, hold on, bring you up now. Which item? 39?
It's item number 39, yes.
Thank you. All right, captions changed, so it's the substitute, so please read it.
It's a resolution by Councilmember Jennifer N. Ide, substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to their water and sewer accounts in the amount of $27,445.87. All funds to be charged and paid from the fund department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes.
All right, I'll move to bring it forward.
Second.
Second, Westmoreland. Vote's open. All right, the substitute's been adopted, the standard paper. That's I'll move approval as substituted.
Second.
Second, Westmoreland. Open the vote.
Vote is open.
All right. Favorable, 6-0. What else, Ms. Wright?
Two additional items that I can read their captions for those if you like. These were referrals from CDHS. The first one is 20-015-02, and the reason it was referred is due to the use of impact fees.
Proceed.
Okay. An ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to transfer an amount not to exceed $350,000 to and from the General Government Capital Outlay Fund to the Zone 3 precinct for the purpose of purchasing materials and supplies to outfit the building and for other purposes. This item was favorable in yesterday's CDHS meeting.
I'll second Ms. Jackson's motion.
Move approval.
No, that's fine. From a procedural standpoint, I'm not sure I understand why this gets referred to FEC.
Councilmember, was due to the use of impact fees.
Well, okay. If there's no questions or comments, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. Now, for the record, there was a paper that came out of transportation that went on the consent agenda using impact fees that was not sent to the Finance Executive Committee, so perhaps I'll have an opportunity to follow up later and better understand that.
Yes, sir, we will. And there's also reserves that are being used here. The next item is 20-015-03. It's an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee or the chief procurement officer or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to acquire from the Conservation Fund approximately 0.99 acres of real property located at 640 Hutchins Road, Southeast Atlanta, Georgia. In City Council District 12 for development as a park at a purchase price not to exceed $83,818.07, authorizing the mayor or her designee or the chief procurement officer or his designee on behalf of the city to execute all documents necessary to acquire the property, authorizing acquisition, due diligence, closing costs, signage, demolition, site stabilization, and other site development costs to be paid from the park impact fee south account in an amount not to exceed $83,818.07 as indicated in the account listed below, amending the 2020 General Government Capital Outlay Fund budgets in the Departments of Park and Recreation and Finance Park South Service District by transferring to and from various accounts listed, waiving Section 21541D of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, and for other purposes. And this item was favorable in yesterday's meeting.
All right, I'll second Ms. Shepherd's motion to approve. All right, vote's open. All right, 6-0. All right, what did we skip over because other people didn't have it together?
Mr. Chair, before you go there, I just wanted to say on the referrals, and I'll ask Ms. Santana to help me. You know, when we're doing them at the council, sometimes I don't hear both funds, but we'll try to make sure that we get everything referred correctly. If it comes directly from the administration, they usually send it to one committee. But if it comes to the council, I will try to listen more carefully to make sure I get them referred to both committees.
That's helpful. I mean, I know it's kind of a train wreck that you have to deal with.
Thank you.
All right, what did we skip over?
There is nothing that was skipped. All Finance Executive Committee members did receive the July update for the Department of Finance, the COVID update. We were on recess at the end of last month, so the update was not provided, but it will be given at the August 26th FEC meeting. But everyone did receive a copy of the most up-to-date information. And I apologize. We do have the remaining public comment. I believe it was 5 minutes, a little bit less than 5 minutes that is remaining to be played from the item that we had to skip due to a technical issue.
No, if you've recovered that, let's play that now, and then I have a comment.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Lisa McGee. I support 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. I want the Smart Policing Initiative grant to go toward reimagining policing, and I want investment in our communities because I believe that Black Lives Matter. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Diego Saldana from South Atlanta, and I'd like to voice my support for 20-R-4178 that reviews a ban on no-knock warrants. I want to support Smart Policing initiatives to go towards reimagining police, and I want us to invest in our communities because I believe that Black Lives Matter.
Hi, this is Brittany Myers in South Atlanta. I'm calling, first of all, to support a joint resolution that is being presented by your committee and by Public Safety, and that's 20R4178, which will review a ban on no-knock warrants. I support that, and I think no-knock warrants are completely unacceptable and egregious, and too much bad has come from them. I really don't understand the benefits, because I think the police should be able to go through proper channels, and I think they should be allowed to give citizens a heads up in their own home. I noticed that the budget was amended recently to include a Smart Policing Initiative grant. I'd really like to see that grant go toward reimagining policing and maybe reviewing some of the training and some of the policies. I don't know how possible that is. I know that the mayor's office has been looking at the 8 Can't Wait initiatives, and I really hope that some of that can be applied and implemented within this fiscal year. I support investment in the communities. I don't think that there is enough invested where it should be. I think it's great that there are new pieces of legislation being proposed to help that effort, but I think that there is always more that we can do, and I want you to keep that in mind, please. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jeff Thomas, and I'm calling to express my support for 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. I also wanted to express that I would like the Smart Policing Initiative grant to go towards reimagining policing.
Hi, this is Dorothy McConnell from Atlanta, Georgia. Was in Buckhead calling because I support the 20R4178 to review a ban on no-knock warrants. We want the Smart Policing Initiative grant to be towards reimagining policing. We want investments in our community. We believe in Black Lives Matter. Thank you. Bye.
That was the last comment.
No good, and thanks to staff. We didn't want to miss anyone. I'd like to comment that, I don't know how many years ago it was, we repealed support for no-knock warrants. Others will have to help me out. It was over 10 years ago. Ivory Lee Young Jr., our dearly departed comrade, gets credit for that. So what this resolution does is express support for the General Assembly's condemnation of that statewide But I want people to know that the city has already done that. Also, I want to comment that according to the feedback I got from people trying to vote in the last week, it was a total train wreck. And so, I don't know. The Fulton County electorate people under state investigation, they should be. They would screw up a 2-car funeral. It's just travesty. It's a travesty what I heard from my constituents, and I'll leave it at that. If anyone wants to pile on, the floor is open. Otherwise, we're going to go home. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shipp.